Welcome to this amazing Angular 14 full course. This course is really amazing and we are going to create a normal bookshop. It's not exactly fully functioning and everything. It's just a demo thing which is going to help you to understand Angular concepts easily. We are focusing on the understanding concept, not making our application perfect. But what kind of application is this? So we have a register button, we have a login, and we are using the firebase to store all our information about the users. So if I go here on the firebase, you can see get started. I can go to our project, Angular project, and on the authentication you can see we have new user sarthak@bitfilms.com. So let's use this user and the password, and you can see the loading part, and I am here on the bookshop. I am logged in. You can see the logout button and click on add to cart. You can see the button changed to remove from the cart, and if I go on the cart, these two books are here inside the cart. I can click on logout and you can see I am redirected to login page and back with the login and register button. Not only that, we have this form validation which is working absolutely fine, and if something is not right, that means form is invalid, we are not submitting it. A lot of other things, we have a routing, we can move from one page to another page, like here login page, bookshop. This is all about routing, and the best part is you can see this is actually deployed on Firebase. So Firebase is hosting this application, and I told you this is not 100% perfect, but this is really 100% amazing application to learn the Angular concepts. So let's see what we have in this course, concept by concept. What's inside this course? We are having a full list of amazing features of Angular. So we will start with what is Angular and why we need it. Then we will start with a fresh application of Angular and then understand the directory structure. Then we will delete some of the things and start with scratch and creating the module thing and everything manually. Then we will create the component from CLI. So first we learn how to create things manually, then use the CLI, the command line thing. Then we will talk about the interpolation, and after that we will talk about the property binding, event binding, and two-way binding. After that we will see what is directives and what are the directives we are going to understand. ngIf, ngFor, and then we will understand about the pipes, which is really great thing. Then we will use the style, the CSS file to style the components, and final amazing thing which is really useful and you must learn it, how to send the data from parent to child and how to send data from child to parent. Like I'm talking about the component, the parent component to child component to parent component. Then we will say how we can listen for the custom event and what are the lifecycle hooks of a component created, destroyed, and other things. After that, we will also going to see how to create the service, what is service, what is dependency injection, and how to create a custom module. Then we will see how to use the service to have the state management thing, and finally we will add the routing to have different page and navigate through the pages. For better look, we will use the tailwindcss for the styling, and after that we will going to see how we can log in, create a login route and register route, and then we will use the Angular form over that forms to create some Angular connection between the login form and the data where we are going to have the form data. Okay, after that we will see how to do some validations and very important Firebase authentication, Firebase registration, both we will do on this level. But after that it's very important for checking if user is logged in or not, and if user is really logged in, then we need to log out. Also we need to protect some of the route so that only authenticated or logged in user can visit that. But No, it's not the end, because we will finish this application by deploying the Angular application to Firebase, and then you will be able to see, and you have already seen what is the URL, so you can check out that manually. Whoa, so let's start with the first thing, which is really great. What is Angular? Let's first talk about what is Angular. So for Angular, Angular is a platform and framework for building single-page client application using HTML and TypeScript. The real amazing thing is TypeScript. Angular is written in TypeScript and it uses full power of TypeScript, whether it is decorator, types, and every other higher level concept of TypeScript. Then we can also see that Angular is a component-based framework for building scalable web application. Everything is a component in Angular. So we work on the component and component related things like HTML thing, like template, styling, services, module, everything. It includes form, routing, form management, client-side communication, and much more things. Angular, a suite of developer tool to help you develop, build, test, update your code. That means everything is included in Angular. You don't have to go anywhere else. Routing is available, testing is available, everything is available inside the Angular. So let's talk about why we need Angular, but why we choose Angular. Okay, so Angular is supported by Google. That means a big company is using it, developing it, updating it. So you will have no tension about the updates, the new features. Everything will be managed by Google. It's using TypeScript, which is the real power of JavaScript, and TypeScript is the future. Remember this thing. It's a declarative UI. That means every UI is declared. You can work on a specific UI point, which is called components. Then we can see it's having support of PWA and SPA. What is SPA? Single page application. What is PWA? Progressive web app. These are high level concept of web application, which is obviously included. It's a simplified MVC pattern. MVC means model, view, and controller. So we create models, we create views, we create controller, or in this case model, view, component. Now code consistency and easy testing. I told you the Angular is a package of everything. So code consistency, everywhere you are using a similar kind of code, consistent code everywhere, so you don't have to learn higher level concept every time. And easy testing, everything is there, testing is also included. So let's work on a new project. Now to get started with Angular, that means creating a new project, we need to visit angular.io. This is a website for this Angular. And first you can go to the docs. This is absolutely important. And then go to the getting started. Inside this, you will find this getting started, but this is give you another starting system, which is from Stack Blitz. But we are interested in setting up in local development. So let's go to the setup. From this, you can see we have this tab called setup. Inside that, we can see we have this command, which is actually going to install the Angular CLI, the command line interface, in our local system. So first, let's click on this button to copy this, and now it has copied. Go to your terminal, and I am on the Angular directory. Paste it and hit enter. Actually, it doesn't matter where you are in which directory, because it's saying that it is a global installation. That means it's a global npm installation. You can access it from anywhere. Just after installing this, you will see that now you have this ng command working. Since we have nothing Here it's giving you this kind of information, which is saying the Node.js version detected and some other information, but we can search for version and it's still giving the same thing. Okay, now what next? We need to do a new project. So just after having the ng installed in your system, you can just say ng, then new, and then your project name. So before doing the ng new, let me give you this example. So if you say ng help -help, you will get a lot of information about the ng commands you can use. So we can see that we have a lot of other command, but first one is add, collection, analytics, build, caching, compilation, completion, config, deploy, but we are interested in this new one. So ng new and the name. So it says that create a new Angular workspace, basically creating a new Angular project. Okay, so let's zoom out and now say ng new, and project name is my app. So let's hit enter, and now it says that would you like to enable auto completion? This will set up your terminal. So pressing tab while Angular CLI will show the options. Obviously this looks like a good thing for me, so I will say yes with a Y, capital Y, hit enter. Now another question, it says would you like to share anonymous data? Obviously no, so press N. And now finally it says would you like to add Angular routing? I would say yes, so have yes. Then it says which style sheet you want, like CSS, SCSS, SAS or less. So in my opinion CSS is okay. Once you define all these things, once you answer all these questions, you will see a lot of things have created for you, but after that it is now installing npm. And this is a normal process if you are familiar with the JavaScript projects, because JavaScript has a lot of dependencies and we actually install all these dependencies through npm. Now it is done, and now it's for some reason it's asking for password, which is in my case different thing, not for you, it is just for me. So we have done that, and now if I see my app is there, this is the project we have just created. So let's cd into my app and then open this with code like VS Code. VS Code is the default editor I always use. It's really amazing, and you can see all of these things are here for us. So what you have to do first, whenever you have any JavaScript project, whether it's a node or front end, anything, you have the package.json and you need to go on the scripts section, because this tell you how you can get started with the server, the local server. Now we have this start, so we can use the npm and we can say npm run start to run the local start, and then we can also use the build. But all these things you can see is done with the ng, and we already have the ng. So if I once again get the help for ng, we can see that we have this ng serve, which is actually used here. So you have two options. You can say ng serve, and now it's going to build your project, the Angular project, and finally after successful compilation and building process, it will going to start your server locally on localhost 4200. So let's copy this and go to here, localhost 4200, and boom, congratulations, the first ever Angular project you have created is here, and this is the default page given by the Angular. I told you there are a lot of options, so instead of ng serve you can say npm run start, and this is exactly doing the same thing behind the scene. It's using the ng, and but why we have this ng here if we have the ng in our command line? So everything is working same with the npm run start, but you can see this ng is locally means on the project, but we also have this on globally on our system. So that's two different things. This is option given so that by chance if you don't have ng globally installed, then it will use the ng from your node module. And you can see on the development dependencies we have Angular CLI included. This means it doesn't matter if you have ng in your system or not, your project will going to start it with this command npm run start. Cool. So we have successfully started using the Angular. The first landing page of Angular is there, but the question comes, from where all these things are coming and what these directory structures are here? Let's understand in the next episode. So now let's understand the directory structure and the files in our newly created Angular application. The very first thing I can see at the bottom is tsconfig file, and ts stands for TypeScript. As we know, the Angular is based on the TypeScript. It's written in TypeScript. So that's why we need the tsconfig file. But what is this tsconfig file? A tsconfig file holds all the information or settings for the TypeScript. Like if we want to compile on save, we have strict mode enable or not, and many other things related to just for the TypeScript. Similar to that, we also have TypeScript.app.config, where we have the application related information. Then we have spec, which is for testing related information. So this is just for the config. This is TypeScript configuration for the application. This is TypeScript configuration for our testing. Then obviously readme is just for information. Package.json is really important. We have seen that we have some scripts, but we also need some other libraries to get started with Angular. The very important one is this Angular core. Then we have the Angular common and some of other Angular related things. So we will check each and every one and why they have in later episode, but some animation and routing we can just understand by their name. So because we need to create our application in the development mode first, so we also have some dev dependency. That means when you create your application. So first we need the TypeScript, because you know TypeScript is only for the development. It's only for the developer helpness, or it makes developers life easy. At the end, everything is JavaScript. So we just need the TypeScript for the development purpose. Then some of the Karma related thing for the testing. We have a Jasmine core, Jasmine types once again for the testing. And remember, we also have the Angular CLI, which we can use by this ng command. So these are the things inside the package.json. And when we do the npm install here, it will go and install both dev dependencies and the normal dependencies. So this is for the package.json, and once everything is installed, the exact version will be lock in the lock file. But we never touch this lock file, and we only see and change something inside the package.json. Then we have testing related Karma. So for that we have some configurations. Then angular.json, this file is also useful for the CLI. This actually tells our CLI that where you need to generate some things. So if I see this ng has a lot of command for generate. So if I get help for ng generate, You can see ngGenerate can generate a lot of other things: inceptor, library, module, pipe, resolver, service worker, services, everything. But when we generate a new file, where it should put? So this angular.json file is going to explain each and everything for the CLI. Once again, we don't have to touch these things. Git ignore, this is for editor configuration if you want some configuration related for the editor, and browser list list rc. This is, you can ignore totally. But the real important file or real directory is this source directory where all the development happens. That means all our component, all our module, template, styles, each and everything will be available here. The environment thing is also here. But any JavaScript project start from either from index.js, or if you are on TypeScript, then index.ts, or here in our case it start from main.ts. And what this is doing, this is first checking for the environment, what kind of environment you have. So how we can get the environment is inside this environment directory. So we can have two different environment, because in development we need some things to be available, but on the production we don't want. Suppose you want to check for, you want to debug something, you want to explore that debug, you want to enable that debug thing, but not on the production. So that's why we have two different files, and we can first check for the environment. Then we say platform browser dynamic dot bootstrap module. That means how we can initiate the Angular project. That start with the app module. And remember this thing, Angular is a modular framework. That means everything in Angular is a module. So that's why we first start with app module. But where this app module is, it says that in the same directory but inside the app directory. So you can see we have this app directory. Once I open this, we have a lot of files. We don't care about that for now, but we are interested in this app.module.ts. Great. So let's close this main.ts and then go to the app.module.ts, because this is the file which is first loaded. Seems like a little complicated, but what I can see, if I remove each and everything, it's just a normal JavaScript class which is exported here, and this is how we can go on the main.ts and it is imported right here. It's using this bracket, curly bracket, to import because we have not exported it as a default one. If we do that, we can simply remove this, and you can see TypeScript is doing its job. It's giving error. It says that, hey, it's not different, it's not exported number. So this is we can do, but we can basically see that app module is just a class. Now if I just undo this, we get a lot of other things. So here, to explain to you, I can just remove these things and I can show you that to make this class as a module, and once again we will see what exactly module is, but to make a normal JavaScript class as a module, we have to add this decorator. Now this decorator adds some metadata information to this class. And now what is metadata information? So basically saying this decorator tells to the Angular what is the role of this app module. So if I once again undo, it has some object, and inside this object we have some information. What are the information? First, it has some declaration, then we have an import, then we have a providers, and finally we have a bootstrap. Let us start with the declaration. Now we know we started with main.ts, which include the app module. Now app module also include some of other things. What are this? First is app component. Now where is this app component? App component is in the same directory. So let's close this app module file and open this app component.ts file. And if I look on this file, if I remove each and everything from here, once again, this is just a normal JavaScript class exported here and imported inside the app module like here. Okay, once again with a curly braces because it's just a normal export, not a default. And here we have some title is equal to my app as a string, but once again it's just a normal class. To make this as a component, to add some metadata to this class, or in other words, to tell to the Angular what is the role of this class, we add a decorator called component. This component decorator add the metadata to tell to the Angular what is the role of this app component. Now once again, this component also have some configuration. Inside the object we are defining what is the selector app root. We will see what it is. Then we have a template URL app.component.html and style URL. Where is the style? Now let's talk about these two first. First, it says style URL. That means some of the CSS thing because it's given here and which is imported directly right here. So you can see we have this app.component.ts which is empty. Now we have a template which is app.component.html. So see, three files all having app.component name but with different extension: app.component.ts, app.component.html and app.component.css. Now on the HTML, if we can go, we find a lot of information, and I think this is the file which we really need. Remember, we have started this server and we were worrying about from where this is coming. So see, my app is running. Let's copy this and see if this is available somewhere. Maybe I can just say my app. It's not available here, but app is running there. Oh, I remember. In our component, we have defined title, and title is my app. And you can see inside this template, which is app.component.html, we are using this title just like here. It is just like using the value of the variable title, and app is running. And if I say app is running from bitfumes, just like this, and save this file, open here, and you can see instantly it is updated and reflected here. That means we got how that page is coming. Page is coming from this app.component.html. So if I remove everything and if I have a normal HTML and h1 tag, welcome to Angular course, and save this file, and you can see that is here. If you want to add some styling, you can go to the app.component and say h1 is having color of blue, and yeah, it's blue. So I think you got the point, like how we are doing things in Angular, but we are not done yet. Let's go to the app.component.ts and we can see we have this app-root. What is the role of this app selector? Now we know this thing is coming from app.component.html. So this is exactly same, but how this is connecting? And if I see here, the title is document, but the title here is my app. You can see this is the one. This means this HTML is not applicable. So if I remove this body and HTML tag, if I just have the h1, then also it's doing the same. So if I go and view page source, in this page source and search for welcome, I can't find. So where exactly this is? If you explore this thing, you have a body. Inside the body, we have this app root. Remember, I think I can understand this. I have seen this app-root. Oh, I got the point. Remember our app.component.ts? Whoa, app root is here. So what happened is, remember, on the root of this source directory, we have this index.html. And this is the index.html which is actually running. And that's why we have this my app. So if I say title-my app and save this file, you will find that this is now changed to title-my app, and we are sure that this exactly HTML is responsible. But what is this app root? This is the component we have here, and that's why this is the name we have given on this component app root. If I say app my root and save this file, go here, you can see I'm having nothing here. If I open the terminal, you can see there is no problem, but it just says, hey, I don't know what this app root is doing, so I don't know how to render this component. So Angular is confused that app root is not available, so I cannot show anything in your browser. So what we have to do, we have to go to the index.html and just change the name app root to app my root. Save this file, and now we will see after refreshing we are back on the same exact thing. So this means whatever you define here is exactly the same thing which is here. So you got the point, like how component is used. So this component is used by this way. There is another way. You can just say div with the ID of my root, and now after that inside here you just need to say, hey, this should be hash my root, and hash defining the ID. Is this working? Okay, I think I have to use something like this. Is declared, some error is here. It is successful. Oh, so that should be app root here, and it is my root here. So let's just change to app root. Now reload, and yes, it is here. Similar to that, you can change it to class, and then we just say dot, and it is working here. So what basically we are doing, we are saying that either you can directly use the component something like this, or you can mount the component inside a div called app root class, and we said that selector is this thing. Okay, so you can use anything, but this is the real good power, and convention is just like this. So app root is here. Now we got the point, like what component is doing. It's just naming the selector, it just adding the component, having the CSS file, defining any variable. Then we have template, which is just for the html.css file, obviously for the CSS. Then we have this spec.ts, which is for testing, and app routing.module, which is extremely important for the routing system. Okay, so we got the point, like what are these things. But let's get back to app module. Here we just not have the declaration of app component, we have some imports. import for browser module and app routing module. Now app routing module, we have just seen this is the file, and this is a normal, once again a normal JavaScript class app routing module. And to make this class as a module, as we know, we need to add the ng module decorator. So we have imported this inside the app module like here. Then browser module is helpful when you want to use a lot of other Angular related helpful classes or directives or bindings. Then finally, we need to focus on the bootstrap. Now, every Angular component must have a root app module, which is here called app.module. Now, this app module is a root module, so we need to define the bootstrap. That means from where, which component is the first ever component of the Angular project. So that's why only in the app module, only in the root module, we define the bootstrap, not on any other module. Okay, so this is all the explanation of app.module.ts. Now let's close this app directory, and we have some other files which is like style.css. Style.css, this file is a global CSS setting, and remember we also have the app.component.css. This is just for this component, not globally. That means you can have h1 information, h1 styling for one component and h1 styling for other component differently on their respective CSS class. But if you want to have a global CSS, then you can put it here. Similar to that, we have the test.ts file, which is for testing, polyfill for the browser informations, and favicon for just the icon. So we understand that how a project gets started. It starts from main.ts by loading the app module, which is available inside the app directory, and extremely important, which is the root module. Every module is decorated with a ng module decorator with some other information. Similar to this, we can define a component, which is another class decorated with a component decorator with some information. And similar to that, we have a routing decorated with ng module because it's a routing module and other things. What I'm going to do right now is a really crazy thing. I'm going to remove each and every file from this app directory, because it's always good to create something by hand to understand it fully. We have this error which simply says that can't resolve app.add module, because app module is the root module, which is a very important file, and we have deleted everything from our app directory. Let's start with app.module, because that is the entry point, because that is inside the app main.ts. Now we need this app module, so we just create app.module.ts, and we can do that with a ng command also, but for now we will see how we can do everything by hand. Remember, everything is just a normal class, so export class app module, that's it. By doing this, we are making Angular happy on this app module class. And now we have another error. This says that module build failed, because this module we have created is missing from TypeScript compilation. This means it says that you have a file, you have an app module class, but it's not a really Angular module. And how we can make this as a Angular module? Remember, we need to add a decorator called ngModule, and we just need to have this parenthesis also. Okay, let's go to the browser and see what's happening. This time it's not doing anything. Okay, so we have defined it. Maybe I can restart this server and see if we are getting the same error. And yeah, so everything is fine, no problem, and we are getting this blank white page. Now, why we are getting this? Because in our app module we are not defining any other component. We are not defining where is our app root. So for that we need to define the component. Now first, here we can simply say declaration, and inside an array I will say app component. Now we don't have the app component also. Let's create it. So say app.component.ts. The component will be the app.component.ts. Now once again it's going to be exported as class, and the class name is simply app component, and that's it. So let's import this inside the app module and we are good to go. Let's go here, and this time it says that hey, the class app module is listed in the declaration is not a component. And how Angular know? Because Angular can't find the decorator for this component. So we need to say hey, this is a component and call this decorator. Now it says that hey, whenever you define a component you need at least one thing. And what is that one property we need to define? Which is the selector. So selector we can say is app root. And once you do this, you will see that we are getting another error. It says that hey, yes, you have the selector, but I can't find any template. Remember last time we saw that we had app.component.html, but this time I will say template is an inline template. So I will just say hey, h1 hello template and close this h1 tag right here right now. Just save this file and go and see. Nothing is there. It should be available, but it's missing. Why? Because if you go on this app module, remember we need to import one very important module which is called the browser module to have all the browser related information for the Angular. Now I can say imports and then browser module, and that's it. Save this file and let's try once again. Still we are not having it because we need to do the last thing, and which is extremely important just for the root module, which is bootstrap, which is the bootstrap component, which is the first ever component to load. And when I say app component, and if I go to the browser, here we can see we have this app template, hello template as the text coming from our template right here. And similar to inline template, you can also do the inline CSS. So I need to say style. I can say styles is h1 with color of blue once again, and it says is not a type of string of array. I can say styles. Yeah, hello template is there. Cool. So this is the way we can have this template and style. But remember, we can also create our own dedicated file for template and style. So app.component.html for the style. So let's move this from here to here, and then we need to say hey, I need on the same app.component.html. You can just define like this, and then you can have this one from here and say that, hey, I need app.component.css. This is the class we have to create. Once again, the file we have to create, app.component.css. Paste this one here, like here, and app.component.css. So maybe this should be the style URL. Actually, a little difference should be here, and app.component.html. Once you have this kind of information, you need to fix it just by doing this. So we can fix this by making this template as a template URL, and that's it. We can also remove this. Cool. So we see how we can create each and everything by our hand: app, module, component, template, and now it's time to move forward in the Angular. Now let's create another component, and with this component we will show some data, and we will also talk about the interpolation thing. So first I will go and create a new component. But how we can create a new component? Yes, we can do that by hand, but we also have our command line. So when I say ng generate with the help, I can see I have generate application class, but we have the component. So we can use this, and after that we can provide the name. So ng generate component, and component name is books. So let's create a books component. Hit enter, and now you will see that here we have a new directory inside the app folder, which is extremely important. This is now books, and here we have different thing: app book.component.html for the template, book.component.css for styling, book.component.ts for all the component related thing like the selector, where is the template, where is the style URL. And this component is actually registered, automatically get registered in our app module.ts. Remember, we always need to add the component name in the declaration for the module. So we only have single module. We have not talked about multiple module. We will see that later, but we only have one module, so we need to add this module here. Okay, so component is created. We know how to call this component, but where we can call it? When we were looking at the app component, we used this component here in the index.html. So can we do here like books, like here? If we do this, let's check this out. Reload, and it's not working. It should show us this book works, but it's not doing. So what we can do, we can actually leave this with only one component, so we never again touch this index.html. But now we will go to the app.component.html. After this hello template, this is the app.component. I will say app books, and this is the component selector, app books. Now let's go here, and this time you can see book works is here. So this is the way we can create new component through the ngCli command line interface, and we use it in any other component. Why we have able to use it here inside the app component? Because the component, or I can say both component, are defined on the same module. Okay, so this is the thing. Now let's talk about some interpolation thing. let's talk about the interpolation. Now, by definition, interpolation refers to embedding expression into markup for text. Yes, this is confusing, but basically it says you have to add some variable values in your template, then use the interpolation thing. And what is interpolation? Interpolation uses double curly braces as the delimiter. That means you can use the double curly braces and the variable name in between to have the value of that in your template. Simple. Let's try that in real life. So we have this app book component which is just showing the book works. How this is showing? Because now we have this template books.component.html. Here we are showing this book. Now instead of this, what I can say book list, or I can say simply programming book list, and I call this with h2, and you can see quickly it has changed. That's good. Now I want to show the book name here, so it should be like name, and then I want to show the author name like here. So if I do this is interpolation using double curly braces. In between that we are using the variable name. Is this going to work? No. It says the property name does not exist on the book component. It says that it's not available on book component. Where we are on the template. So we need to define these two properties inside the component. Which component? Obviously the book component, because this is a book template. Go to the book component, and where we can define inside the class. So inside this class we can say, hey, name is going to be clean code. Okay, and then author will be author. I think I have actually opened all these books in my Amazon. So by Robert C. Martin, Uncle Bob, and here we are like this. Okay, so we have defined these two, and then I save this file, go once again, and yes, you can see we have these two things. Let's add this in a list. So here we are, and then I say ul, then li. Inside this li I can first use the name, and then I use once again one more li with the author. And yeah, clean code I can do in a very nice way, like clean code by author. Yes, so clean code by Robert C. Martin. But I also want to do the image thing, like show the image of this book. But where we have the URL, we can get the URL from Amazon. So I can open this and I get this Amazon book URL, copy that, and now I want to show the image too. So I say image tag, source is this one, and then I say size, or maybe just the width is 100 pixel. How it's looking? Looking good, at least okay. At least we have the image name. But remember, whenever you use image, you need to define the alt tag. So we don't want to hard code the things. Similar to that, we don't want hard code this source URL. So what we can do, we can use the name property here and go inside of this alt tag and just paste it. And that's it. This interpolation also works inside any value, property value for HTML. So if I go reload this page and check for alt tag, and yeah, alt tag is including this clean code as the name. That's very nice. But I told you, I also don't want to add this source from like a hard-coded thing. So I want to get it from the component. So I say src as the source. But we know we don't have the src property in our component. So open the books component and here say src is equal to this thing as the string. Now everything is working absolutely fine. So you can see we have defined these three, but Angular is more of a TypeScript thing. So you can also define the type. So you say that, hey, this is going to be a string, this is also a string, and the source is also a string. This is just the sanitation work we can do just for the security and making TypeScript happy. Cool. So this is the thing we have done, but remember, we want a list of books. So just like this, we have a pragmatic programmer. So let's copy the name from here, and I want to add another book here. So here I can define name2 as a string, and the name is pragmatic programmer. Then author for the second, which is going to be the string once again, is equal to, I can copy from here and paste it. And finally, source2 is going to be the string for this image URL, like here. Cool. Let's go here and copy these things and just change source to source2, name to name2, author2, and finally name2. Save this file, go here, and yes, we have two image list, two book list. That's great. And we have understand how to use interpolation, not only just to show anything, but also to bind any property in the HTML tag. Let's move forward. Now let's talk about the property binding. So what is property binding? By the definition, property binding in Angular help you set the value for properties of HTML element and directive. Yeah, so this is the just definition, but it says that to use property binding to do such things as toggle button functionality, set path programmatically, and share value between component. In between that, I am interested in this set path programmatically. Now remember, here we have set the source path programmatically. This is same. So what is property binding? So this source, this alt, is the property of this HTML tag, or you can call it attribute. Now instead of doing this thing, we can also do this connection of dynamic value with this property by making this source inside the square bracket and then just give the name of variable or dynamic value you have. And you will be amazed that this is surely working. If I reload, you can see everything is fine. We can do that for other places and like this, and also for the alt. So we can do the same. We don't have to worry about that. Now, so we have done that and everything is working fine. But if we had this interpolation, why we need the property binding? So suppose I have a button here. Now this button says show books, just like show, I want to show books or not. Now if I want to disable this button, how I can disable it? Yes, in HTML I can just write disable and you will see that the button is really disabled. But I want to make this dynamic, or I want to make the decision of disable from the component. So we have this books component where we have defined the definition of all the books. Let's create another variable or property simply called is showing. This is going to be the boolean thing and initially it's false. Now I want to connect this property on the disable. How I can connect? So this is the thing where the property binding shines. So first let's see what if we use interpolation. So let's make this is showing to is disabled. So is disabled is false, so it's not a disable. Now if I use the interpolation and I say is disabled, what do you think? What should be the status of this button? Is it going to be disabled or not? From the definition, it's looking like disable. And what is the value of disable? False. So disable should be false. But if I go, you can see it is still disabled. So that's the problem. But why it is disabled? If I inspect this, you can find that it is having a disabled attribute only. Why? Because at this time it is treating false as a string. Now when you say something inside the disable, it's going to be true. Anything is true. That's why we need to use the interpolation, and in the interpolation we just say is disabled, and now you can see this is showing book and which is enabled, and you can see disabled property is eliminated from the DOM, that document object model, or simply from the HTML. But if I go on the component and make this as true and go here, now this is disabled and disabled property is back on the HTML. So this is the reason the interpolation is not recommended everywhere, and you have to use the property binding whenever possible for the properties or attribute of any HTML. Event binding in Angular is very important. So what is event binding? Binding is like connecting something, and when I say event occurs when you have any keystroke, mouse movement, clicks or touches. So event binding lets you listen for the response to the user action on any kind of event. So how it looks: if you have a click button, then on that click button, when you actually do the click, then what's going to happen? We call a function called onSave, and it's called template statement, and click is the target event. So remember, we have this button on our list of books right here. So what we can do, we can actually work the click event on this button. So generally on normal JavaScript, we say on click, but we are on Angular, so we need to say click. But to make this click thing an event binding, we need to move this inside the parenthesis, and then inside this double quotes we can define what's going to happen. So I'm just going to say handle click. This is a function we are going to call, but before that we can also do some console.log and hello. Let's see, is this going to work? And says, hey, console.log is not happening. Can we do alert? It says no, you cannot do that. So at last we need to create a handle click function, but finally it says that hey, you don't have anything on your component. So first let's open the books component, and here anywhere you can create handle click function, and now function is created. So if I go, you can see there is no error. First, to make this button clickable, we need to first enable it. So I say is disable to false. Okay, and now this button is clickable, but nothing is happening when I click on this button. So let's first say alert of I am walking. So as soon as I did that, if I click, okay, I need to reload, but this is not working still. So what happened here? Let's go to the template, and here, yes, we have this function, but we are not calling this function. So on this click event, we need to call this function by having the parenthesis at the end. So this time if I reload this application and click on show book, you can see now I have this alert. So since you have the connection from your template to your component, you can do anything. So I want to make the button disable just by clicking it. So I say disable, and this dot is disable is equal to false. So remove this alert part, and what's going to happen is, like, whenever I click on this button, this should is disable itself. Okay, so if I click, nothing happened because something is wrong. It says is this dot is disabled to true. So we have to make it true. Now once again, if I click on show button, show books, you can see now this is permanently disabled and we don't have any way to make it enable. But that's not an issue because this is just, I'm showing you how you can connect your template with your controller component, and here we are having this click event. Now you can have any event you want. So suppose you just want to mouse over, and we need to move this into the parenthesis, and then we have to call the function we want to execute. So handle click just when I hover over this button. So you will see that the magic will be like, as soon as I move it here, you can see now this button is disabled. So you can add any kind of event from your template to your component, and this is really amazing thing. And finally, very important topic, which is two-way binding in Angular. So what is two-way binding in Angular? So it says two-way binding gives component in your application a way to share data. Use two-way binding to listen for the event and update the value simultaneously between the parent and the child component. This is very nice, and let's now see this in action. So here I'm going to create a simple input field, a text field, and I want to actually first see how this is going to look. So I'm here and you can see this is the text field. Okay, now let me zoom this out. Whatever I'm typing here, let's say I'm typing my name, I want to show the name just after this. So after this I want to show whatever I'm typing here. This means when I type on this input field, I want to store that information inside a variable, and then we can show the value of that variable inside this p tag. So when I say when I'm typing inside the input, that means I'm talking about the on change event. But remember, in Angular it's event binding. You can do that with a parenthesis and just say change. When I say change and then I call it handle input, and we need to call this function. So let's say I will go to the component, book component. After this handle click, let's create a handle input function, and now I'm going to say alert. Alert is just doing this thing so that I can see if this is working. So when I'm typing, nothing is happening. So let's get back on the template and see what's happening here. So let's change this to input from the change event, and now when I say input, you can see the alert is there. But I just want to have whatever I'm writing. So can we do the event, or can we have the event here? Let's say any, or I can actually say it's a change event, which is not here. Is it like HTML input element? Okay, and now I want to say console.log of event. Let's see what's going to happen. Now when I have this event accepting in this input, then Angular says that, hey, you said that you need some event in the handle input function, but from the template you are not passing any event. So how we can pass the event system from here? For that, Angular provide you event variable with a $sign. This is extremely important to put the $sign before this event, which is actually going to pass the event from this input field. And now this is saying that, hey, event is missing from the type HTML input, you are providing something else. This means we are providing the event which is having a wrong type. So maybe for now I can say any, which is going to accept it. Open the console and say Sarthak, and you can see as I type I am getting all these things. Now since I have the event, I say event.target.value. If I say that, then with each keystroke you can see we are getting whatever we are typing, and this is really we need. So what next? We need to put whatever we are typing into a variable or a property. Angular call that property. So just above this or anywhere inside the component, you can say name, which is going to be the string, and initially it's going to be null. Okay, so duplicate identifier. Okay, so I can say my name, this is going to be the string, so I need to say empty string initially. And now when I call this, I say this dot, or before that let me show you. If I say Sarthak here, and then I can just use the interpolation and say my name. So you can see Sarthak is now here. Okay, let's make it a div so that it will be on the right side, but still it's on the bottom, so no worries. Sarthak is there because the value of this my name property is Sarthak, but let's make it empty string, and then I say this dot my name is equal to whatever is the value coming from the input. Now this makes two-way binding very nice. Let's see what that means. If I say Sarthak, and you can see as soon as I'm typing here, that is reflecting here, Sarthak Shrivastava. But this is not the exact two-way binding, because what we are doing, one is listening and then we are showing that here, and for that we need to create this function, and in the function we are just doing one thing, which is updating the value. This is not good. Why? Because Angular provide you two-way binding. So what is two-way? Remember, we have two kind of binding. One is the event binding, and in the event binding we use this parenthesis. Another is this attribute or property binding. In the property binding we are saying this square brackets. So here when you say, hey, I want to get two-way binding, so you need to use both of the ways. One is a square bracket, another is the parenthesis. And then here, instead of having any function, you just define the variable or the property name you want to connect. So I'll say my name. As soon as I did that, this statement is doing this two things at the same time. This means it is updating this value and connecting that value here. So now it says can't bind input. This is not good. So what we have to do, we have to use a new thing which is called ng model. Now, what this ng model will do? Ng model will combine two things. One is the value and another is the input thing at the same time. And by doing that, we will be able to do the two-way binding easily. But before that, we are getting this error. It says, hey, can't find this property on the input. Because this is not a normal property of input HTML tag, we need to go on the app module and import a new module called form module. Because this ng module is inside this form module. Ng model actually. So ng model is inside the form module, and now you can see it is working fine, and this is cool. And we have done this with the ng model, and you can see if I go here, and now this ng reflect model is having this thing. Okay, so ng model is really great thing, and this means now we can go and simply remove this function, and that function is not needed. And you can see without that function we are able to do the two-way binding, right? And now let's move. Now let's talk about the directives in Angular. Now in Angular, the directives are the classes that add additional behavior to the element in your Angular application. And we can use the built-in directive to manage the form, list, style, and whatever users see. So it's like if something is in front of user, we can use the directives to change it or to manipulate it. So there are various built-in directives available in Angular. First is component. The component is yes a directive. So we know we can use the component with the template. Second is attribute directives. So what are attribute directives? Like the classes and the styles and the values. If we can manipulate this with some directives, that is attribute directives, and it changed the behavior or appearance of an element, component, and another directives. Then we have a structural directive. This is really fun, and we are going to focus on this one right now, which is the changing the DOM, the document object model, basically changing the HTML layout by adding and removing other element. So what are some built-in attribute directives? The ng class, as the name suggests, it is going to change or add and remove the HTML classes in the template. Then we have a style, which is again for changing and manipulating the style, and ng model, which we have just seen, which is going to help us on the two-way binding for input and input value and the input event, the change event. Then we have some of the built-in structural directives. The ngIf, it's a if-else condition. If you want to show some name with a condition, or if you want to show full page effect in a condition, then you can use the ngIf. ngFor is to loop over some of the targeted HTML or DOM. If you have something you want to repeat, you can use the ngFor. And similar to that, we also have a ngSwitch. Sounds really amazing and interesting. So let's now start with this ngIf. Now I want to use the ngIf here. How I can do that and what functionality I can add? I have a button which says show books. So when I click on this button, I can toggle all the books showing here. So let's just remove this input field and then put all these books inside the if condition. So let's go here, and we have this, which is a list of the books we can move this inside the ngIf. So we can simply say ngIf, and then we can provide a property in the component. So inside the component, we can see we have is disable because we want to disable the button, but we don't need this, so we can totally remove it. Similarly, we don't need the handle click button for now, and we can also remove this my name. Okay, let's go to the template, and here on this we can just remove everything. And now let's get back here on the list. When we have added ngIf, let's say is showing a variable which is for showing the books. So let's create this property in the component. So I will create the property somewhere here. Is showing is going to be boolean and initial value is true. That means yes, we want to show the book. And this is a convention I follow. Whenever there is a boolean thing, then I start with is. So is showing, yes, it's true. So let's go here on the here, and now we have problem. It says on the input field you have my name. Actually, I don't need the input field, and that's good. And also this div I don't need. Finally, we are here. Now what we need, whenever we click on this show book button, we want to change the value of this property, and that will going to show the book. But currently this is showing is true, so why we are not able to see all the books? So remember, whenever you use the built-in directives here, especially for a structural directive, you need to use asterisk, and then you define the directive name. So asterisk ngIf is showing. Now if I go, you can see we have the books. Now let's go to the button and create a click event. On that, yes, I can change the is showing property from the component, which is by creating a function. So let's create a function, and I say toggle books, and we need to call it, remember? Yeah. Now let's go to the component and create a function toggle book, and this dot is showing is equal to not of this dot is showing. And this seems like strange, but what this is saying, that if is showing is true, then make it false, or if is showing is false, make it true. Basically just change whatever it is, true to false or false to true. Good. Let's go here and show book. It's not showing. And then once again show book. Yes, we are having this book. Now instead of show book, let's change the name to toggle book. So here we are, and say toggle showing toggle show book. Toggle book is good. Yeah, now this is good. Nice. But one thing more I can do. Remember, we are doing this showing or not of this showing from here. Can we do directly here? So what I want is showing is equal to not of is showing. Is this going to work? Let's try. First click, and yeah, it's working. And that is, we don't need this function. So let's remove this. And this is the shorthand. Whatever we are doing on the component, we just did here directly on the template. Now final thing is, I want to change the toggle book text once again to, when the book is showing, I want to say hide book. When book is not showing, I want to say show book. How I can do that? I can say inside this an span, which is for show books, and similar to that hide book. Now when I want to when I want to have the button text as hide book when we are showing the book. So once again use the ngIf and I say if it is showing, then say hide book, and if it is not showing, then say show book. And you can see currently we are showing the books. That means we can just hide book. Once we have the hide book, we can say show book. Wow, this is really great. But we are doing this with the span. We need a HTML tag to use the in ngIf condition. Is there a way we can just ignore this? Because I don't want any span to be inside the button like this. So what we can do for that, we can go and just change this span tag to ng container. And now what is this ng container? Is it a component or what? Think about this as a special Angular tag which is just going to make sure that whatever you are using after that, after doing all these things, it will just remove this and you will just have the thing whatever it is inside it. So yes, now everything is good. We can see show and hide is working, but this time if I go inside this, you see there is no span tag available here. That's the great thing with this ng container. Okay, that's all about ngIf. And now let's do one more amazing thing. You can see we have these two images, and these two images are coming from the component. Inside the component we have name1, name2, author1, author2, source1, source2, which is not good. So what we can do, we can create a books array, and this is going to be an array of object, and this object will hold these details. So I can cut and paste it, and here I don't have to define the type. Also I can change the equal to semicolon, not the semicolon, it's just a colon, and inside this semicolon I can use the comma right here. So this becomes a array of book with one book only. But let's add the second book detail. So cut, paste, and change like here, and these all are just name, author, and source. Okay, this is good, but we always need to define the type for our property. So at the top I can define interface for book, and what is the structure of this book? The structure of this book is having a name which is a string, then having an author detail which is also going to be an string, and finally going to be an source image, and I can call it image, and this is also going to be the string. So in that case this books is going to be an array of our book. Okay, now since we have defined this type, you can see this is complaining. It says that hey, there is no image, there is no source in your interface or the type you have defined. So let's change it to image right here. Now this has to be something like this, and yeah, so it's an array of book, and we have done it. That's it for the structure of the data. But what exactly we can do to loop over that thing? And now it says source is not available. Yes, we know. So let's open the template for the books, and here we are having this source, and we are having this as a normal property. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this li tag, and inside another li tag, which is the remaining one, I'm going to use ngFor. This is going to iterate over all the books we have and give us the iterated book, and we can use that information here. So how this is going to be available? So now what we need to do, so I will say let books book of books, and this is just saying that create a variable called book, and for every iteration on the books load the data inside this variable. So for every iteration we will get book.image, then book.name, and book.author, and once again book.name. So let's see this, and here we have these two books back. Amazing. And this is for the iteration of any array we have, and yeah, it's very simple. Just use asterisk ngFor, then let, and define the variable of the array. That's great. But what if we also want to show the number here, like 1 or 2 and 3 if we have? Then how this is going to work? So with the ngFor, you can just have the semicolon and then define and say I is equal to index. Just this is actually going to be available in your loop or in your iteration, and I just show the I, and you can see it says 0 and 1, but I want to show from starting from 1, so I will just add 1 here. Now you have 1 and 2. Now this is very nice, but remember we have used the ng container for ngIf. Yes, we can also use the ng container for our ngFor. Right now we are looping on the li tag, so we should have two li tag, you can see, and behind the scene it is having, see this, ng content, but we can use the ng container. So we can say ng container like here, and then we can have all these ngFor iteration part on the ng container, and that's also going to work. And you can see it's having exactly same result, but the benefit is we are having very clean HTML, and this HTML doesn't know anything about the loop. It just have to show the details. Wow, that is called ngFor. Now let's talk about another amazing topic in Angular called pipes. So what are pipes? Pipes are simple function to use in template expression to accept an input value and return a transformed value. Now what is transformed value? So pipes are useful because you can use them throughout your application while only declaring each pipe once. That's really great. Only define once and use it everywhere. For example, you can use a pipe to show a date as April 15, 1988 rather than a raw string of the date. So you can transform it accordingly. You can uppercase or lowercase. You can uppercase and lowercase any string and do a lot of other things, and you can also create your own pipe. So you can use pipe to transform string, currency, amount, date, and other display things. Okay, let's see this in action. So here I am, and the first thing I can see is this title for these two books is having this name with the author name with every character as lowercase, but I want to make it uppercase because that's a normal thing, or title case. So how I can do that? For that, I need to go on our template, and wherever I'm using the name, I just use a pipe sign, and that's why it's called pipe. After that, I can say, hey, it's a title case. Is this going to work? I'm not sure. Let's see. It says, hey, title case is not in your pipe list. So how I know that which pipe is available? Go to the documentation and search for the pipes. And interestingly, you need to go on the API. That's a really great thing. So go to the API pipe or pipe API, and here you will find a lot of information about the pipes. So style guide, a pipe transform, yeah, a lot of pipe is here. And here you will find we have a title case pipe. Inside this, it says that you need to use pipe sign but with a title case all lowercase. So here we have used it in a camel case. So just convert this to all lowercase, and yep, you can see it's working. C is capital by the author. So author name also has to be title case, and yeah, you can see all these are now title case. That's so great. And not just title case pipe is useful, you can have any kind of pipe. The very nice one is currency pipe. So currency pipe we can use because in our application we are creating, we need the price for these books. So I'm going to add a price field on our component for the books. So this is going to be price, or I just say amount is let's say 700, and I'm saying 700 in terms of Indian rupees. So let's say 800, not 1000, 800, and we need to add this amount field here, which is going to be a number. That's good, and now don't have any error. Okay, so I also want to show the price. So just after the name, let's have the price. So in a p tag I can say, hey, book dot amount. Okay, so 700 is the amount. Now I want to use the currency pipe. So in this you just need to say currency, and that's going to convert into the amount. So here when I say currency, you will see that now before that we have a dollar sign, but as I told you, this is not in dollar, this is in rupees. So how we can change something in this pipe? So it says that if you want to change, you can say currency code, and you can define the code. So there should be some example here. How can I use it? Okay, so currency and then colon and then currency code. Okay, nice. So currency code is INR for Indian rupees, INR, and this time they are having this INR symbol or Indian rupees symbol with 700, and that's great. So easy, so nice. Similar to this, you can also have other pipes, but you can play around that, and that's not a big deal. Cool. Before moving forward into the component related things, I just want to style this. And where should I put styling? Obviously, since these are related to the books, we should have that here. But before that, let's have some checking from the browser. I just inspect it and make it bigger for you, and then I will see that UL, this is the UL which is here where we are using if, and it contains everything. Now I just want to make this as a display of flex, and you can see all the books are inlined, but I want to say that hey, flex wrap is going to be a wrap. That means if no space is available, move to the new line, and you can see something like that. And that's the only thing we have to do on the UL. So I just copy this thing and go to the style book.component.css. I just say UL is having these two property. So just after that, if I reload, you can see it is still that same. Now let's go to the LI, the first book, and style that first book only, and then we will move that styling to every other book. So what we have inside the LI, See, in the li we have one is the number, then image, then title, and then amount. I just want to make all these into a p tag, this also in the p tag, and now I just give a class of serial number, okay, and the image is okay, then comes title, and then comes currency. Now that's good because we can use these classes to define what we want. Let's go once again, and you can see this is li, and because of list item we have this dot. So first I just say list style is none. So you can see on the first one only we don't have that black dot because we are just making changes in the first element, and when we are happy with that we can move it for everyone. Good. Then we can see this is the number, then we have the image, then we have the title. So the title should be truncated. So text truncated, is there any text truncate? I think that's not the thing. So we can do one more thing, we can use another pipe. So we can use the pipe, or let's use the css, and we say text overflow is going to be the ellipsis, and ellipsis means if no space is available use dot dot dot, and we need to define the width of this li, and this is going to be, let's say 200 pixel, and that's okay. So yeah, this is good for 200 pixel. Copy these two and go here. For the li I want to do this thing, and that should be available for everyone, and we need to say ul, and inside that ul we have li. Is this going to work? It's not working, something is wrong. Let's have the class of book here, and then instead of this I can say book class should have these properties, but still it's not doing anything. So let's check here, the book class text overflow width. Oh, I forgot to add the list style as none, and yeah, that's good. So on an average these are looking at least okay for now, and we can make it 300, or I can just make it 25%. that's going to be really nice. See, this is going to be 25%. Wow, everything is good, but I want everything at the center. So now once again go to the li and text center, text I can say align item to align text align to center. Yeah, this one is good. So text align center, text align center. Yeah, it's working for everyone. Nice. And this is how we do a little bit of styling in our application. Okay, so this is done, and what next? We want to click on these images and open a new component or new page maybe, and on that we can show more information about these books. So first I want to say that whenever I hover over it, I say cursor is going to be pointer. So when I hover over these, you can see these are having pointer. Good. Now let's work on really amazing thing. I want to have a button here which says add to cart, and then on the same page I will show a cart which will increment the amount or the books we are going to add on it. So first let's remove this button, let's remove this hello template, remove this numbering, and we will start from here. So I don't need this button, I don't need this numbering, and that's it. I don't need that template, so I need to go to the app component.html. I just want to have this app books, and that should look good, right? Now let's add a add to cart button. So here, after that, I say a button add to cart, like here. Now whenever I click on this add to cart button, I want to have that book in my cart. But before that, I just want to do another thing. Let me give you a real life example. Whenever you loop over anything and then you have a lot of code, see, slowly this single book detail is increasing. We have added this button, then maybe later on we need to do more of the things. If we are going to have the cart system, then we need to have the cart information, but that's not good to have every information in same component. So this is the time we need to create another component called single book, not books. We already have the books. We just want to add a new component called book. So ng generate component called book. Okay, so we have added a book component, and that is also registered here directly on our app module. And now I want to move all these information from here to the new component template, which is book.component.html, like here. Okay, and then here inside the books component template, I just say app book and do this. That's it. And is it going to work? Let's see. Okay, so we are having this app book. So what if I just remove all these things and say book works? And you can see we have 4 times book works. How? Because on our books template, we are using this ngFor. And we are looping through this thing. We have 4 book, so it's looping through 4 times, iterating 4 times, and every time it iterate, it show whatever we have inside this book component. But we want to show all these information, and this template need some of the other thing. What are the things? Like book information. So book.image, book.name, all these things we need here. But we don't have these information. So how we can pass the information from one component to another? Basically from parent component to child component. Now what is parent component? What is child component? See this. This is a component called books component. Now books component has inside the books component, we have another component called book component, app book. So isn't it like the books component is bigger and book component is smaller? Yes, that's why the bigger component is called parent and the smaller component called child. So we have the information of each book in our parent component called books component. We have to pass that book information into this child. Simple. So how we can pass it? We just need to say here, hey, I want to pass book inside this, and that is going to be a value of book. So the variable is going to be book and the value is also going to be the book. This is the value and this is the variable name. Now whenever we need to connect from a variable, then what we do? We do this with this, which is a square bracket. Square bracket is for binding. We are going to bind this book property inside the book component with the value of this book object. Little bit confusing, but don't worry, we can call it single book. Single book, and then we say like here. So book property inside the book component is having the value of single book object. Is it clear? Now by doing this, is this going to solve our problem? Let's see. No, Because as I said, this is going to be a property inside of this book component, which we just have created the component. Let's open the book component.ts and here create a new object, create a new property called book, and that's going to be initially empty object. Now empty object is okay, but is it going to work? Still it's not working. And also we need to define the type. It should be the type of book, but the type is not inside the book component, it's inside the books component, like here. So we can extract this into a new library and we can call it types or interface or whatever you want to call. So I just going to call types. Inside the types, I'm going to create a new file called book.ts and move the interface, which I have here, to the file I have created, and I need to export this, export interface book. And now I can import it on our books component. Also I have to import it on our book component. Okay, now it says, hey, you don't have anything, so can we do the null? It says, hey, it cannot be null, so we have to define it, and it says you need the initial data. That's not good. So how we can actually accept the prop or the data from the parent? For that, let's go to the documentation. In the documentation, we just need to search for component data, and here you can say sharing data between child and parent directive and component. So here it says you need a parent, then data flow to child. So from the parent we can only do a data transfer to the child, and to have that, when we need to create the property in the component, we always need to say that, hey, this is going to have a input from any other component. So right now here we have to say, hey, this is going to be an input which is coming from Angular core, and call it, but finally it says, hey, you need to define its initial value, and I don't know what is the initial value, so I said it's going to be empty object. But if it is an empty object, type is mismatching, so I'm forcing TypeScript that treat this empty object as the book type. Okay, and finally you can see every book is now here. This is the real thing we have done, which is from passing data from parent component to the child component like this. Okay, so this is nice, and let's work on the button thing. So now this time we have the add to cart button on our book component. We need to have a click event of this, and then we see how we can move that into the cart. Click event of this add to cart button, and we know when we need to do any event thing, we just say on click, and I say add to cart. That's good. Now go to the book component, and here on this, let's create a function called add to cart, and here I just say console log this dot book, because we already have the book information in the component. Let's open the console, make it bigger for you, clear it, and click on add to cart. Nothing is happening. So once again, nothing is happening. So what happened here? We need to inspect. Yes, I forgot to call this function. One more time. Click on add to cart, and yes, we have this information, pragmatic programmer. Click on first one, clean code. That's great. Since we know how to get the information of the book when we click on this cart, then we just need to have a cart. So where we can have the cart? On the books component. On the books component. So here on the books component, let's create another object called const cart, and cart is also going to have a array of book, and initially it's going to be an empty array, so we don't need any const and right here. So what we need, whenever we click on add to cart, we want to move the information from child component to the parent component. Okay, so which is the child component? Remember this thing, this book component is the child and books component is the parent. So how we can pass the information from child to parent? Once again, let's go to the documentation, and here it says sending data from parent to child component. So click here. This time we need to move data from child to parent. Yes, remember when we did that thing from parent to child, we used input, but now we need to send the data, we need to output something, so that's why we are going to use the output. So when we do the output thing, we need to define a event. Okay, so first we need to define an event. We call that with a decorator of output, and we initialize with the new event emitter, and we can define what kind of data we are passing. Once we define this event emitter, then we can use something like this. So we can say this dot event emitter dot emit and whatever value we want to pass. If you are not convinced with this, let's see how this is going to work. Okay, so let's go on book dot component dot html, single book. We have this click event and we are calling this add to cart button function. Where is this add to cart function? It's inside book component. Here we are just console log this. Let's create another output variable or emitter. I can say emit book. Okay, and this is going to be new of event emitter. And what should be the type of this event emitter? Hey, I have not I need to call it. Yeah, so what should be the type? We are going to pass full book information, so that's why this book type is absolutely important. Now on this add to cart function, which is triggered when we click on the button, we can say this dot emit book dot emit, or I can call it book emitter like this dot emit, and then we can pass here like this dot book. Okay, everything is fine. Now suppose we say it's going to be the string, then TypeScript complain that hey, you are passing a full object, you said it's going to be the string. So it's very important. That's great. Now these are absolutely fine. Let's close this and this also. Go to the browser and see what's going to happen when we click on any button. Click on add to cart. Seems like nothing happened. Why? Because behind the scene an event is really emitted, but what's going to happen when we emit the event? We don't know. Okay, so let's work on this and see how we can listen the emitted event on the parent component. Now here we have the event emitting whenever we click on any add to cart button, and that happening from our book component like here. But how we listen for any event? Remember, on the book component.html we are listening for an event called click event, and then we are calling any function for that particular event. That means whenever any click event happen, then execute this function. Similar to this concept, we can go to the books.component, and here we are emitting the event on book component, on the child component. So whatever component is emitting the event, this is the book component. So on the book component, wherever you are using inside the template, you need to listen for that event and do the things what you want. So I say add to cart. Okay, now this is the thing, but what should be the event name? Remember, on the book component we have given book emitter. Okay, so this is the name of the event. So I say whenever there is an event called book emitter, then call this function called add to cart inside of the books component. So I can go to the books component and here create a new component, a new function called add to cart, and just log anything for now. This means it doesn't matter which button I click, we should get a console log. So click on add to cart, it's not working. So once again I did something wrong. So book emitter, add to cart on the books. Looks like everything is fine, and yes, everything is really fine. I just need to reload the page and you can see everything is working. Okay, but we don't need this ASDF, we need the real book information. So remember, every event is having a magic you can say property called $event. By passing this, we can get whatever information we have inside the event. So just like that, when we are passing, we can say, hey, it's going to be an event, and whatever we have inside the event, we can just log. And for now, I call it any, so that TypeScript will not give any error. Let's click on add to cart, and you can see we are getting the full information of the book. And this is how we are moving. And since we know the event is going to be a type of book, we can just type hint here. And this is going to be like add to cart book, add to cart book. So instead of event, we can just call it book. But why we are getting this book? Remember, on the book component, we are passing here the book information or the book object, and that's why whenever we are receiving these things, here we are on the books component. Cool. So this is how we listen for the event of any custom event emitted by any child. So remember one thing, whenever you need to pass data from parent to child, you pass it via normal property created by input decorator. Whenever you need to send information from child to parent, then you emit an event. And this is all the communication between the child and the parent component. Let's talk about the lifecycle hooks in Angular. So what are lifecycle hooks? In Angular, a component instance has a life cycle that starts when Angular instantiate a component class and render the component view along with its child view. So basically, Angular says that whenever you have a component and when you create the new class of the component, then after that it load the template, it load the child component. So at every step you can have a hook. What is hook? That means at every step you can do something. So it's a life cycle of a component. A life cycle continue with change detection. A life cycle means if there is a change, that's also a life of the component. Then on update all the view and component instance as needed. The life cycle ends when the Angular destroyed the component. So whenever we are removing the component, then we can call the destroy life cycle. So from the bond from the initiation of the component to the destruction of the component, we can hook at every point, which is called lifecycle hook. Similar to this component, directives can also have lifecycle hooks. So what are the common lifecycle hooks for a component? For a component, you can have ng on change. As the name suggests, on change, whenever anything changes on the component. ng on init, when the first time component load. Then do check, it's for developer, then whenever we want to check something. After content init, that means everything is loaded. After content check, after view init, that means template loaded, a view checked, everything is fine on that. And finally on destroy. But you can see I have bold 3 of the lifecycle hook. One is on change, on init, and destroy. So let's talk about all these things. So here we have 2 components, books component and book component. So let's talk about this. And here first, whenever I open a books component, I need to open the component. Here you can see I am implementing on init interface. So if you are not familiar with the interface, think about interface as a class which are forcing you to have some function. So now you can see we have this on init function. So I'm just going to say log on init and save this file and go here, and you can see we are having this on init. So I can just say it like here on init is like this. Now on init is here, but we also have the constructor. So what is the role of constructor? If the role of on init is like when component is created, what is the role of constructor? Let's do the same thing here for constructor, and I can say hey constructor like this, and maybe I can do for this like here. Okay, so console log of this, and this should be constructor as string and something is bad happened. Okay, so I can get back the last way of having constructor and on init. Okay, so see, whenever we load any component, first is the constructor called, after that on init called. So what is the difference between these two if both of them called once for every component lifecycle? See, constructor is basically the part of a class. So here we are creating the class. So what happened when Angular says that okay, I need to create a component? So first it initiate this class. So when the class is initiated, then this constructor is called. Then after that we have all these properties, then we initiate some other things, then we load the view. After all these things, when it says that okay, constructor is ready to mount, it says that on init. So this is for on init, means when the component is actually ready to be mounted on the HTML or the DOM. That's why it is called second, and this constructor is called first. So what we can do on ngInit, suppose you want to fetch some data from an external API, then you can load that here. You can also do that inside the constructor, but suppose for some reason you want to do that once the class is initiated, not on the constructor. So you can do that here. Now similar to ng on init, we also have a ng destroy. So remember we had a button here. So this button is, let's say, just toggle, and we have a click event where I say is showing is equal to not of is showing. So it just toggle all these things. So if I go here, toggle it, you can see yes, we can toggle. But which component we are toggling? We are toggling this app book component. So let's have the example of on destroy on the app book, because we are destroying this component only. So go to the book component, and here we can see we have this on init as the interface, but along with that we can also have on destroy or of this implemented. And now once I implement this, then it says, hey, you need to add a property called on destroy, ng on destroy. Here is the one, ng on destroy. So let's have that, ng on destroy, and it's auto completed. And here I can say console.log of on destroy, like here. Yeah, okay, so this is done, and let's try this. I reloaded component, so these two constructor and on init coming from books component, but when I click on toggle, you can see I'm getting 4 times on destroy, because we have 4 times this book component, and on each component we are logging this on destroy thing. So whenever this, so when this one is useful, now suppose on the ng on init I say set timeout or set interval actually, okay, and set interval of let's say a function, and here I say console.log, and I log it hello for every second. Okay, this is the interval I'm doing, but I'm also creating my interval. Let's first see what is the result of this. Now you can see every second we are getting 4 times hello or because of each of the component. That's good. But what if I toggle? I toggled. I have removed the component, but still you can see this is working. The interval is not yet removed. Even if I clean the console, it's here. So I need to reload, and that's the problem. And how many times I mount it, you can see we are getting a lot of set intervals. So what we need, whenever we destroy this component, we need to remove the interval. So that's why I create my interval, and this is going to be null initially, and here I say this dot my interval is equal to set interval, is not a timer of null, so timer, so this should be a timer. Is it? Let's have the any. Okay, so now we have it here. So on the destroy, what I can do, I can say this dot my interval, but I want to say clear interval of this dot my interval. So now reload this, and you can see the interval has started 12, 16. For every component we are getting a console log of hello 4 times every second. But when I click on toggle, and now you can see the timer is removed for every component, and we don't have any timer here. And if I once again toggle it, getting it back, timer is started. So that is the very useful thing for this ng destroy. So since we are not going to use these things, let's remove each and everything. It's just for the demonstration, and clean this up because we need to understand some other things. So remove that button, and on the books component also I'm going to remove the console logs, and finally we are back on the track. So let's move to the next big topic. Now slowly we need to move to the bigger concepts in Angular. So this time we are interested in service. So what is a service? Here in Angular, service is a broad category encompassing any value, function or feature that application need. Seems like a complicated thing, but it's not. But a service is typically a class with narrow and well-defined purpose. It should do some specific task. Still, I'm not getting it. So let's understand more about the service. Why we need a service? Ideally, a component's job is to enable the user experience and does nothing. So our component should be clean and lean. That means it should not do the task of fetching the data from the any API or from the database. It should not be responsible for doing a lot of manipulation and calculation and business logic. So a component should present properties and method for data binding and application logic. So what is the core purpose of a component? Just to link the template and the bindings to the data logic. So in that case, a component can delegate the certain task. So if component need to use a method or just have some properties presenting the properties, so where all these method and properties will go? Everything the component delegate task to the services, such as fetching data from the server, validating the user input, logging directly to a console, and much more things. And this is why we need a service. A service also can depend on another services. Just like we will going to see later on that a user service can fetch the data by using another service which is called HTTP service. Okay, so that's good. But how we can use the service in our application? Now let's see that. So in our books component, if I go, see the component is doing a lot of things. It is holding these data. It is holding the card details. That's good. It is having this console log. A lot of things we are doing just inside this books component. Similar to that, we have a book component. Here we are doing this add to cart and we are emitting this logic. So this component is not doing much thing, but books component is doing a lot of things. So let's use the service to make this component clean and lean. So I will open the terminal and I will say ng generate service inside a books directory and the call, and we call that service books service. So if I create this, first it has created the spec for the testing. We are not interested in testing right now, so I can delete it. But now you can see books.service.ts is here. This is just a normal class. If I remove everything, just a normal class, but to make it a service, we are using this inject table decorator, and we are defining that where it should be provided. So we are providing it in root level. Now we can say that this is an inject table. This means we can use this service from the service container. And what is service container? We are going to use this inside this component. How we can use it, we will see, and we will call that a dependency injection. We will understand these things, but first what this book service will do. First, here you can see this is holding all the books data. So we can move this array from here, and we can say that I want to provide this detail from this book service. So let's say book get books will going to return this array. Okay, so how we can use this function inside of the component? First, I need to create a constructor is already there, so I can move constructor at the top like here, and then inside this I say private books service colon book service, and this is actually going to create a private variable called a book service, which is going to have this class instance. Now this thing is called dependency injection. All the magic will happen on the Angular level. Now we have created this property books, and this is going to be an empty array initially, but what I want to do, whenever this class is created, not the component, the class is created, then I say this dot books is equal to this dot book service dot get books. We can do this, or you can do the same thing on ngInit. So let's do that on the ngInit. So first we define this property and then we have this. And now let's see, is this going to work or not? So let's go and reload this page, and you can see we are having this same. Now what if I just comment this line, and now we can see we don't have any book. So yeah, this is working absolutely fine, and the benefit is the component doesn't know how we are getting the book. It only know that, okay, when I want to get the book, I need to say, hey book service, give me the books, so get books. So this is the task of the component, and the real task of service class is doing the ultimate magic. Okay, similar to that, what we can do, add to cart. So I think that also go inside the book service, but we are not interested in that right now. So I just want to introduce you with the book service. But what this is a dependency injection is doing, let's understand this thing first. What is dependency injection in Angular? Okay, so in Angular, the dependency injection, in a short called DI, is wired into the Angular framework and used everywhere to provide new component with a service or other thing they need. So the component needs something like a service, and dependency injection is the way to provide it. Okay, component consume the service, that is, you can inject a service into a component, and this injecting thing is called dependency injection, giving the component access to the service class. Okay, so this is just the definition. Let's see how we can understand this properly. Now we have this component called books component. Inside that we are providing this books service via this constructor. But how does constructor know how to initiate or create the instance of this books? Now what generally happen, you can do something like this. If I say private books service is going to be the books service thing, I have created this property, and initially it is, let's say, null and is not assigned, has no initialization in the constructor. Okay, so now we have done this. Then I say that, hey, this dot books service is equal to new book service class. So I am initiating this book service class. So this is the normal thing we can do. But this is not a dependency injection, because we know this dependency, we are adding it. There is nothing for the Angular. So suppose this books service also need another service inside the constructor. So maybe a name field, which is going to be the string. Suppose we need this, then what we have to do, we have to provide some name, let's say Sarthak. Okay, but if this Sarthak is not a string, it should be another class. So for now I'm going to create class name, and this is the thing, and this also have a constructor which need the name as the string field, like here, and we are using this class here. So name should be a type of class. Now we are passing the string here, so we need to create a new instance of the name class. So we can say this, we can say just name is equal to, is it going to be const name new of name class, which should be available here. Okay, so we need to pass the name class, and then we say, hey, this is a name. So this is really going to be a bad thing, because suppose this name class also depend on another class. So it's going to be a chain of different classes. So in that case, we will not be able to create the instance of a service which is having a lot of other dependencies. So that's why there is a concept of dependency injection, which says that I am going to take care of all the dependency you need. So this thing will come from the service container of the Angular. So what is a service container? Think about service container as a big array where you have all the classes you need. So if that class is available, then it will give the class. Otherwise, Angular say, okay, wait, I'm going to create a new instance of the class, and Angular will take care of initiating and creating the instance behind the scene. And that's why instead of doing this thing, when we say something like this, you can see we are not creating any instance of this class. We are not doing any new book service. We are just defining that I need a book service. What is the type of book service class? That's it. Angular will say, okay, you need this thing. I'm going to create a new instance and pass on your constructor. So this is for the dependency injection in Angular. So right now, all the books are coming from our service, which is books service. But when we say that it's a books service, it should be only responsible for books thing. See, we have an inject table, and this decorator has a property called provided in, and we are providing it as a root. This means this book service is available throughout our project. We can call this book service anywhere inside any component. This is okay when you have to create a service globally, but this service is only specific for the books. So I'm going to remove this provided in root. And when I do this, if I go here, you can see it's crashed. Why? Because if I go here, it's not giving any error, but you can see that something is wrong. Yes, the error is here. It says that, hey, you are saying that you need a provider for book service, but you don't have. Simply means in our books component, we said that, hey, Angular, give me this book service, but Angular doesn't know where is the book service because we have removed that provided in root. So how we can register this books service? We need to register this inside the app module. And here we can say providers is equal to this thing, and let's just import it. By importing this, we are back on the same track, but we are back on the exact same track. We are still importing this book service throughout the application because we have imported this on our app module. So doing this or doing this is going to be the same thing. So what we can do actually, we can, instead of importing it here on the app module, we can create a new module for books. Okay, and then we can import it that. So let's go and say ng generate new module called books module, and it will be only available inside the books directory. So now we have created a new module specific to this books. Now here we can say providers and then books service. Okay, now since we have a module dedicated to books, what we can do on our app component, you can see this books component is registered. So I can remove this books component from here, and then I can actually import our books module. Since we are importing this books module, now I can register this component inside the books module. So I can say books component. So previously we were having this books component globally, but now this is only dedicated to a module, and now we are importing that module only. So it's now books module's responsibility to load any component, any service, whatever it need. Okay, so that's good. And now if I go, it says app books is not a known element. So it says the books component is not there. What happened? Declaration is good. We are importing the books module also. So what we have to do, we have to go to the books module. Yes, we are declaring the component, but since the component is used inside the app component.html, like here, this is another module, although it's a global module, the app module, but we need to say that, hey, book module, we need external modules to be able to use this books component. So I'm exporting the information of books component. In that case, yes, app module will be able to use this books component inside the app component.html, that means app template. And finally, we also need to add book component here, because we know this books component is using book component, app book component. So we need to add the information of this book component inside the books module. So we have added it, and now we are just exporting the books component, and everything is managed by this books module, and our app module is just having the information, hey, there is a books module, and that's it. Okay, so if I go here, everything is working still same, and everything is fine. Next thing I need to do is, this book is a part of this books component. So I can move this inside this books directory, and then just change if anything is needed. So save this file. So what happened? Save this file also, and now everything is once again fine. Now you can see how easy this directory structure is. We have a books module which know everything about books module, and it also know about single book, and that's really great. So this information is really amazing, and let's now use services to do amazing things in our Angular. Right now our add to cart button is doing nothing. It just console log whatever we click. So we have the book information. So let's have a specific service called cart service, and it's not card, it should be cart. What I'm doing, this is very silly. So first let's open the book component and add to cart, and everywhere I'm doing the card. So that's not a good thing. So is there anything? Yeah, add to cart, and on the book, this is very silly. So now I have add to cart button. This is just console log the book. Let's create a new service, and this time I'm going to create the service inside a dedicated directory called services, because this service which I'm creating is not related to a specific component. It's a global service. So ng generate service, it's going to be inside the services directory, and I call it cart, and this time with a T. Okay, now we have the services, and let's remove this testing directory, a testing file, and now we have a cart service. Here I'm going to create a cart which is going to be a type of book, array of book. Okay, now this should be initially empty array, and that's good. Okay, this cart service should have a function called add, and what this is accepting, this will accept a book which should have a type of book, and then we should say this dot cart dot add, since this is going to be an array. So add property does not exist on the type of book, it's an array, so why it's not giving that? So if I say array of this book, it's going to be the same thing, but I should say push. Yeah, push is there. And I'm going to push book here. This is the function we will use when we click on add to cart. Okay, so where we have the add to cart button, we have inside the book. Here we are calling this add to cart function, which is inside this, and now we are emitting this event to listen for the main books component. But now instead of doing that, here I can import the cart service. So private cart service is going to be the cart service, and then I say this dot cart service dot add. This should give us the add, but it's not giving. Anyways, we can say this dot books. This should be the thing, but oh, so I need to do the add to cart instead of that cart service dot add. So now if I do, yeah, we have this dot book. Okay, now we are not emitting any event. We don't need it because we can directly use this cart service, and that's good. In that case, we can go to the books component, and now actually we need to go to the book component, and we are not emitting anything from here. So we can remove that emitter. Since we don't emit anything, we cannot listen for the book event, so we can remove that. We don't need it. That's good. And since we don't need that, we don't need this add to cart function inside the books component, and we can remove this cart array we had created. Cool, everything is fine. And now let's check this. Reload the page, click on add to cart. Okay, there is no error. This means something is good happening in the background. We are not having any console log. So what we can do here, we can go to the cart service, and just here I can just log book, whichever book we are clicking. So click on add to cart. Yes, it is working. If this is working fine, then what I can do, I can have a list of cart here and a list of items of the cart here just below it. So programming book list, we should have a cart. So go to the app, and here I should create a cart component. So let's say ng generate a component called cart. Okay, and remember we are creating a cart, and this is holding all these things, but we are still moving this cart service inside the service directory because this is going to be the global one. Or if you want, you can move it here. It doesn't matter because inside this cart service we are using provided in root, so it's all up to you. So I can remove this services, and now we can go to the cart component, and we can use the cart component just below the app book inside the root template. So I can say app cart like here. So it says cart works. That means this cart component is working. Here let's say your cart, and yeah, it's there. Your cart is there. Now I need to check if we have something inside our cart. So we need to go on the component, cart component, and then we can say how many cart we have. So we can say get cart, and this once again should use the cart service of cart service, and we can return this dot cart service dot get, which should get me all the cart data we have. So we can say get cart. Yeah, the get cart is good. So let's create a function called get, which is going to say return this dot cart. Nice. So since we have this, now what we can do, we can use this get cart function, and then we can say that how many books we have inside the cart. So let's go to the cart component, and now I say div. Inside this div, I can use this interpolation and I can call this function directly, get cart. Now you can see get cart is having nothing, but I can say get cart dot length. Is this going to work? It says 0. Now if I say add to cart, you can see now it's 1. Add to cart once again, it's 2. That's great. So by doing this, we are getting all the books we have inside the cart, and then we are having length. So what we can do, we can simply say asterisk ngIf we have this thing greater than 0. Otherwise, if it is 0, then we need to say no books in your cart. Or if we have the book, then we need to loop over the books. So but first see, if we say yeah, we don't have any book in our cart, if I click, okay, nothing is there. Let's loop over the carts we have. So we can say let's use the div. So ngFor in let book of get cart. Okay, and then we can say inside the p tag the information or the title of the book. So book dot name, like here. So we don't have any book in the cart. Click, and yeah, pragmatic programmer, art of computing. If I once again say pragmatic programmer, it is having here. So what we have to do next, if the book is already in your cart, we can say that remove from cart. The button will change it to remove from the cart. Okay, that's good. So for that, we need to go inside the book component. Here we have add to cart, but we need to say remove from cart, but this will only available ngIf not in cart, or I can say is in cart. So if the book is in cart, then we can show this button. Otherwise, we can say if it is not available, then show add to cart. Now we don't have this is in cart property, so we are getting this error. So let's open this book component, and then we say is in cart is going to be the boolean, and initially it's false because initially no book will be inside your cart. But when I say this dot add to cart, we can say this dot is in cart is equal to true because this is moving it inside the cart. So let's see, if I say add to cart, now button changed to remove from cart. Now let's implement this thing also. So we need to say when you click on remove from the cart, we say remove from cart function inside the book component. So remove from the cart, and this time this is in the cart will become false, and we say this dot cart service dot remove this dot book. Now we need to implement this remove function in our cart service. So we have to do this, which accept the book of type book, and then we say this dot cart dot, and how we can remove it. So I think there is a pop, but pop will remove from the last, so we have to find it. So I can do this like this dot cart is equal to this dot cart dot filter where book is book, and I can say just say B is not equal to book. Okay, so we are filtering out where the book is not this book. Okay, so once again click on add to cart, remove from the cart, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, add to cart, and remove from the cart, remove from the cart, remove from the cart, remove from the cart. This is implementing the cart thing in our Angular using the services. Our application is really amazing, but the problem is all these things we just have on single page, and that means on only one page, I can say. So you can see in the same page we have a cart, same page we have the list of books, but I want to have a dedicated pages for everything and have a header which should say cart, or the home page will list all these books. For that we need the routing thing. So let's go to the Angular website and just search for routing, and you will find this routing, Angular routing thing. So let's go here, and it says just go to the common routing task, and here it first say you need to run this command to add the routing in your Angular application if you don't have. But in our application we already have added this when we started the project, when we created the new project through ngnew command. So since we have it, it doesn't matter, we can start it. But since we already have it, what we have to do first, we have to head over to the app module file, this file, and then we need to import app routing module. But app routing module is a file which is on the app directory. So we need to first create a file called app routing module. So what should be the exact name? We can see here it says app-routing.module. Okay, let's go on the app directory, create a new file called app-routing.module.ts. Okay, now inside it we always need to export class called app routing module. This is going to be a class, but we need to make it as a module, so we say ng module. But since this is going to be a routing module, we need to do some of the other things. So before doing anything, let's go to the app module. Inside the imports, let's import app routing module, and that's it. Now we only need to work here on the app routing module. So let's go and see what we have to do. In this we need to import routing module, then .for route, and we need to define the array of all the route and also export it so that all the application can use this. Okay, so how it's going to work? First we need to importing route module .for route, and then we define routes. Okay, routes is going to be a constant which is having a type of route, and for now it's just empty array, and it has to be routes actually, not route. Yeah, and similar to this we need to export this same router module. That's good. Now this is done in terms of setting up the routing, but finally we need to create some routes. So how we can create? Inside this array of routes we need to create some object where we need to define the path, and on that path which component we want to have. Okay, so let's go to the application we have, and this is the home page. That means the route of slash. So I can say the path is going to be slash, and component is going to be, what should be the component? How about the book, the app book component? So I say app like books component. This is the component thing. Now if I go reload the page, something is breaking. It says, hey, there is no slash. So what I have to do, we have to just say empty. And now you can see we have the app books component. Now, since seems like nothing has changed, but trust me, something has really changed. How I can show you? I can actually create another path, another route which says slash cart, and in this I'm saying cart component. So if I go to the slash cart, it will only load cart component. Let's see how this is going to work. So I think once again we have some issue. Okay, so Angular says you don't have to say slash. Why you are saying slash? So that's good. Now let's go here on the address bar and say slash cart. Just press enter, and on the cart we are also getting the full thing. Now this is happening because of one important issue. See, on our app.component.html we are having these both of the component. We want to manage the component by our routing. So let's comment these two, and then if I go, we have a blank page. You can see nothing is there. So how we can tell to Angular that, hey Angular, give all the responsibility of managing the component to our router? For that we need to go on the documentation and we say we first need to have this line of code, which is router outlet. So copy this and remove everything and paste it. Router outlet, this is the only thing we have to add, and now all the component will be managed by our router. This means if I go to the slash cart, you can see we have the cart here, and similarly we have the books list here. Wow, so this is really amazing. But let's have some styling like a header or navbar, where that navbar will be common and where we will have the links for list of books and the cart. Now to add some styling, let's open the tailwindcss, because this is really amazing. Click on get started and go to the framework guide. We have this Angular, click there and it says you need to first say create a new project. We already did, and finally we need to go to install all these things. So go here on the project, run all these things. After that we need to do npx tailwind init, and what this is going to do, this is going to create a tailwind config file in our root. Okay, what next? It says then on the config you need to copy this content thing and change like here. Basically this is saying that where is all our file where tailwind need to be applied. Finally we need to add these three things on our base style file. So here we are, and paste it, and finally we can start building things. Okay, so what we need a navbar at the top. So let's open the app component, and here I just say, hey, I need a nav. Inside the nav I need first a left and a right. So on the right I need a button, then this button is going to say my cart like here, and here I can give a simple h1 which says bookshop like this. So you can see these are here, but we need to style all these things. How we can style these things? So I think there is some styling, we can remove it, and now inside this first I just say class of flex. So this will be flexed, but it's not applied. That means we have some issue on our tailwind. So maybe I can restart our application so that it can build and include all the tailwind css things, and then I can try, and yes, you can see all the styling has changed. So bookshop is there, and then I can say justify between and padding of 4, background of purple, let's say 800, and text of white. Looking good? Yeah, so maybe I can move it to 900 also. Yeah, so my bookshop is here and here is my cart. This is the button. Now what we need to have this list of books, so I can move this router inside a div, and this div will have a class of container. Do we have? Yes, so it should be like this, or we can just say padding, maybe padding of 4. Okay, so you can see some margin is there. These things we have added some styling on based on our CSS, so I can remove this styling because now we need the Tailwind to handle everything. Okay, so we did with this navbar thing, and in the navbar I can say bookshop. This bookshop, when I click, I want this page, and when I click on my cart, I want the cart page. So let's make this also a button. And now how we can do that? For that we need to go to the routing Angular documentation, and then we say whenever we want any link, we need to use anchor tag, and on that, instead of href, I can say router link and whatever the path we want to give. Okay, so this should not be a button, this should be an anchor tag, and then I'll say router link is going to be the base URL, and on the cart it should be router link for cart /cart, and this is the normal slash. Okay, so let's click on the my cart. Yes, we are on the cart. Click on bookshop. Yes, we are on the bookshop, and this is looking very nice. Now I will just do some styling behind the scene, and then do some styling on these books, and finally we will start with the form so that we will have a login and register page. I have given little styling here, and it's just because of the Tailwind CSS. All the styling you can see from this classes I have given, just like these, so it's not a big deal. So what next? We want to create two pages, one for login and one for register, and then we will implement the authentication. So first I'm going to create two components, one for login and one for register. But before that, I want to create an auth component or auth module actually. So how it's going to work? See, we have the cart, we have the book. Let's create ng generate module of auth inside of the auth directory. So if I create, you can see we have this auth module, and I think it just should be inside it, so I can remove it from here. That's not the thing I really need, so it's just like auth. Okay, now I have created an auth module inside the auth directory, and next I want to create ng generate component, and this component is auth component, but let's have login component inside of the auth. So we have done that. Similar to that, we can also create register component, and yeah, and both of these automatically get registered here inside this auth module. Now what we have to do, we have to just make sure we have to route to access these two components, because all the component thing is managed by our route. So here we can say when we go to login, the component should be login component. When we go to register, component should be register component. Okay, and similar to that, we can go to our app, and here we can say we need one login and one register link. So login will go to the login, register will go to the register. Okay, so now we have 3 buttons, so we can just give some styling to all these, and we can say, hey, I need a margin of margin X, that means on the right and left both side of 4. How about 4? Looks good. Okay, so let's see, is this working or not? Let's click on login and it says login works. If I click on register, it says register works. That's great, and everything is fine. And now what we need a form inside this login component. So first I create a div with a class of flex and margin of auto and height of screen. Then I create a simple form, and inside this form I need a div. In this div will include the input with the email ID, and then we will provide some classes of padding 2, little rounded, and that's I think that's it. Or maybe we can provide the width, but for now this is fine. Then I can give a label for this email, so email, and provide the ID for email, and label is email. Then we can create another one, and this is for the password thing, so password and password. Finally we need another thing which is for button, submit button. So this is input field with a submit button. No need for any ID, but this is going to be having width of full, background of purple 700, text of white. If you don't know these tailwind thing, don't worry. And when I hover over it, I need bg purple 900. Let's see if I go to the login, and yeah, we have this, and we want this to be at the center. So why it is not at the center? I can give class padding 4, rounded, large, and have some border. That's okay, but it should be justify center. Yeah, good. So that's nice, and I think margin auto should come here. Yeah, good. This is good. And one more thing is an h1 tag of login which says text of center and text of XL. Oh, I think I did left. Yeah, so it should be XL. Okay, we just finally need to give all these div some margin Y of let's say 5. So this is now looking good, and maybe I can give this form a width of 1/3, and now this looks once again good. And this email part has to be of full width. So when I say width of full, okay, and then this also have width of full. So then yeah, something like this. Okay, so we can say, hey, this div, all these div having width of full, and both of these input field should also have width of full, and cool. And the very last thing is both of these input field should also have some border so that we can recognize here we are. And one more property we need to give is placeholder email address, and similar to that we need a password. So we have designed our login page, and similar to this login page I'm going to create a you can say register page also, and then I will come back. So let's do that. And finally, I have created a little register form also, so both forms are here. And now let's implement the form thing. And yes, we are going to use the Angular form. So we need to go to the Angular website and just search for form, and then we will be able to use any of these. Now let's start with the form. How? Let's go on our auth login, and we have this. And very first thing is we do the two-way binding. So we need to use square bracket, then parenthesis, and ng model with a field we are going to create called email. This field will be inside the login component. So let's say it's going to be the string, and initially it's empty string. Now just to check, I'm going to use the interpolation and show the email. Let's go, but we have this error. It says, hey, ng model is not available. But we have faced this issue before, and this is because of the form module which we have imported in our app module. Now the point is, this forms is only available on the app module or app component template. It's not available on the login. So what we have to do, we have to use this auth module, and here we will import the form module. Then we can go to the app module, and we don't need this form module here. And now let's see, it's still asking the same thing. Why? Because yes, we have imported here, but we need to import the auth module in our app module. So we say auth module, and it should work. So if it is not working, we can restart our server. So just by doing that, you can see now everything is fine. Okay, now if I type something, it's not working. Let's see if we have some error. It says, hey, you have to define the name. So we have not defined the name in our login template. So I say that, hey, this is name is email. Okay, is this going to work? Yeah, now you can see whatever I'm typing, I'm getting here. That means it's a two-way binding. Two-way binding for the email or for the password also. But you know, on the password, if I create another field, that's not a good thing. So what I have to do, I have just to create a form, and this form is actually going to have an email of string, and actually this is like email which is empty, and password which is also going to be empty. Now the type, what should be the type of this thing? So for now we can go to the types directory, and we can create our new type for first let's create a file called auth.ts, and here I say export interface called login, and I say login form maybe, and I say email is going to be the string plus password is going to be the string. That's good. Now we say login form. Okay, we have this form. So what we can do, we can say the two-way binding is form.email and form.password, and same we need to provide the name of password. Okay, so it says email property does not exist. Yes, we don't want this, and that's good. So we have all the data in our form. Now how we can submit this form? We have it, we have this submit button, but when I click, you can see nothing is happening. When I add something, nothing is happening. So what we have to do, we have to go to the form, and here we need to use our submit hook. So we can use the ng submit directive, and this is going to do the submit part. Okay, so we are having it. Let's go to the component. Now it says submit is not available in your login component. So on the login component, we can say submit is a function which is just going to alert this .form, whatever we have inside the form. So let's say sarthak@bitfumes.com. Password is secret123. Click on submit. Nothing happened. No error. So why it's not submitting? Okay. It's not submitting because I'm bad. So I have to call this submit function, and now I say sarthak@bitfumes.com. Password is secret123. Submit, and now it's an object, so I can do another thing. I can just say console.log open zoom for you, and then I say something and submit. Yeah, so this is submitted. So just like we are submitting this login form, I will do the thing for register form behind the scene, but then we will see how we can validate thing. We can only submit this form when the form is valid. Finally, let's work on the validation. So when I submit this form, it is submitting with all the details are empty. Now, how we can work on it? First, let's open the register, because I have done something on register also. Then we need to connect or create a template variable, which is going to be the ng model. And now we can use, or we can hook, or you can say we can refer to this input field with the name of email. Now I'm going to create another div. Inside this I will say email field must be valid. Okay, right now if you go, it is showing, and we can design it a little bit. So we can say padding of 4, bg of red 300, and text of red 500, something like this, and text of red 500. Yeah, maybe I can do, okay, I can do 800. Yes, this is good. And finally little rounded, and padding is 2. Okay, but I only want to show this field when the email is either empty. So right now, yes, it is empty, so it is showing, but as soon as I write something, it should not be there. So first thing, we need to make this required field. So I say that this is a required field. Now I will say that only show this field. So I say there is a hidden property, but bind this hidden property when email field is valid. So when this is valid, then hidden, like hide this field. Right now it's not valid. If I start writing, it's valid. Cool. So this is very easy way of making doing any kind of validation. So same thing we can do for our password, and this should be password, and finally the password confirmation, or I can say confirm password. Okay, now copy this thing, paste it here, and password field must be valid, and here I say password, and finally on the confirm password. So confirm password and confirm password with capital C. Now everywhere we are having it, and whenever I start writing, that's gone. This is good, but you know, when I open this form, I don't want to see this. So I will say that when I touch on any field, then only check for this kind of validation. So inside of this email valid, I'm using this hidden. We can also use the asterisk ngIf, and I say if it is invalid, then show it. or if email dot touched, then only show it. So you can see now it is not showing any error, but as soon as I click here and start writing, you can see it's checking, but since we already have it, it's not having any issue. So we have created this validation, but what if you can see we focus out. So when I go here, it's not having anything. When I start writing, it's gone, but when I make it empty, it's not doing that. But when I first land on this page, there is no error. This is really we need. We can also do one thing, which is like email dot dirty, and I can use the or condition. Either it is touched or it's not a correct email. So if I do this like this, you can see I don't have to go outside. It's just doing validation at that same time. So now we can use the same here on the password field. So we can convert it to, hey, it's password, and it's actually confirm password. And here we have the password. So password, yes. Okay, finally we have done with these things, and now let's I will do that same kind of validation thing in the login, but final thing is remaining that we can able to submit this form. So what we have to do, just like we created a reference for this email input field, we can create a reference for our form also. So I create my form is ngForm. What is the use of this case? Then I can use my form and go at the bottom and on this submit button, and I will say that disabled if my form dot invalid. If the form is invalid, just disable this button. So you can see if I click, you can see I'm not having any console log because this form is not valid. If I start writing something and click, still, because we need the confirmation password, and finally everything is fine, then you can see we are having this email and password and confirm password, everything is here. Okay, we'll do the same thing on the login form, and then we will see how we can really do the login with the Firebase. Now I will go to the Firebase to have the authentication, but first I need to click on get started, and here I will create new project Angular 2014 course. Okay, confirm it, click on continue, and enable. I don't need any analytics. Finally, let's create a project. So this project is creating, and once this is done, we will get some kind of code, and that code we need to have inside our application. So I will go to the app and create first firebase.config.js. Inside this, I will use the code they are going to give. So go to the authentication part here, and before that we actually need to get the code. So yeah, go here on the web section, click here, and register app, and my Angular app, and Firebase hosting. Yes, I will also need the Firebase hosting. We will need to deploy it later, but first click on register app. So first we have created the project. Now we are creating our app, and now it says npm install Firebase. So copy this and paste it. So it's going to install the Firebase. Then it says initialize the Firebase, and we have to do this, and that's why we have created the Firebase config. So we have this, and finally we can say that we are importing the firebase, we are configuring, then we have this, and then we say export const app, or I can call it firebase, like here. So it says to do add SDK for the firebase product you want to add. Okay, I will do that if I need it, but for now, yes, this is fine. Now what we have done, we have used this code in our project. What next? It says click on next. It says now you need to install a CLI because later on we will need it for the deployment. So let's install it right now. And while this is installing, click on deploy. First it says you need to do the firebase login, then init, and finally do the deploy part. Okay, so we can do that later, but let's continue to the console. So here we are, and go to the authentication because we need to have our authentication. Click on get started on the authentication, and it says which one you need. I need email and the password. So let's enable this, save it, and yeah, email password is here. So this is good, but how do we really do the authentication? We have the firebase in our system like here, but what is the real process? So when I go to the register like here, then we need to first register our application. So to register it, we need to go to the documentation. So click on go to docs, and then we need to search for authentication. So where is the authentication thing? Yeah, build is authentication. Where now here we say how to get started. It's for the web part, and getting started, it says you need to have these things which we already have, but finally it says that from Firebase auth you can say sign in with email and the password. So this is for the signing in, but how about creating the user? So create user with email and the password. Now we can use this, and then we can see what's going to happen. But where we can use it? On the register. So click on the register component. We have this submit button, and then we can get the create user password from Firebase auth. So copy this thing from here and paste it. Then we need to create the user with email and the password. What is the code? We can just copy all these things and paste it here, and we don't need to do the console log right here. So get auth, we don't need yes, we need the get auth. Then from where we are getting the email and the password, we have the form. So we can say this dot form dot email, this dot form dot password. We just need the password, but we also have the confirm password. So we can do something like if this dot form dot password is not equal to this dot form dot confirm password, then we can create a variable called password matched is going to be a boolean, and we can say it's initially false. And if it is matching, I can say if this is matching, then I say this dot password matched to maybe I can do reverse. So I can say this dot password matched, it is equal to false, and initially I can say no error, so it's going to be true. So if the matching is good, then we just return so that we will not do any authentication. Nice. So first we create the user, then it says you are signing in, and if there is any error, we will handle the error. But what we don't want to sign in a user, we want to move the user to another login page maybe. But let's see, is this working or not? And for that, I will just say user credentials. I'm logging in. Okay, so from the register form, we are sending all the detail, and let's do the magic. Open the console and say sarthak@bitfumes.com. Password is secret123. Password is secret123, and click on submit. And now we have this thing. It says no firebase app or default has been created. So it says you need to initialize the app. Oh, really? Yes, we are doing this here. So we need to import this file in our project. But where we will do that? For that, let's go and first change from JS to TS, because it's all about TypeScript. And then we can remove these things and just say export default of this Firebase configuration. And for now, I just say can't find name. Okay, so export const is also going to work. Okay, so then we will go to the app component, and whenever this project is initiated, the app component is initiated. For that, we say on init, we say ng on init, and then we need to initialize the application. So first I say initialize auth. It's not auth, initialize app, initialize app actually, and I can get that from here. So what was that? Initialize app. Okay, and I can do this here, and then I say initialize app. Inside that we can say firebase config, which we are loading from our configuration. Now Firebase is loaded, and now it should work, but it says module has not exported config. We are exporting const firebase config. So firebase config is imported. Oops, I think it was not compiled. Anyways, so once again it's not submitting, but I need to say sarthak@bitfumes.com, secret123, secret123, click on submit, and yeah, after some time you can see we are having the user detail, and that means in our Firebase, if I go on the users, yes, we have this user. Congratulations, we have implemented the user registration. But first, what if we have a wrong password? Then what's going to happen? You will see that there is nothing happening because we have restricted it. Also, we don't have any loading thing here. So we are not worrying about these things that can be implemented. I'm focusing more on the heavy part. So we did the registration. How we can do our login? So let's work on the login system. So how do we do the login or authentication? So here we have getting started on the documentation, and now we can see that we have sign in with email and the password. Okay, so once again we need to have all these things here. Copy that, and what's that? Namespace worked. Anyways, so we can go to the login component, and here on the submit part, let's do this. Import it at the top, and yeah, so this will be this dot form dot email, this dot form dot password, and that's good. Now if there is any error, I just do the alert, credentials does not match our record. Okay, but if user is there, I will say alert, yay, log in success. Okay, that's good. So let's go here on this and say sarthak@bitfumes.com and say secret123. Open the console, open the network, click on submit, and yeah, it says login successful. Cool. So we are done with that, and this means we are easily able to log in our user. Now what if I say any incorrect information like this, click on submit. Credential does not match our record. Very nice. So this is good, but as I told you, we need to have some loading system in our application. So here we can define is loading, which is boolean, and initially it's not loading, but when I start submitting, so this dot is loading is equal to true, and whenever we are done with the things, do we have the finally? Yes, we have the finally part. This dot is loading is equal to false. So whenever the Firebase is doing something, we have the is loading true. That means we can go first, we can say if this dot is loading is true, then just do the return. That means if it is in the loading state, then even if user is clicking, do nothing. Okay, so let's go to the login component, and here on this button we can just say we can use the button instead of this and call it submit, and button type will be submit, like here, and then we can do this thing, and obviously this class also, and the part is done here. Okay, everything is good, but the benefit of this is we can just go here and say ng container, and this is going to say loading dot and once again ng container. This will include the submit. Now we are only going to show this loading if is loading is true, and we will show submit if is loading is false. So right now it's false, obviously, by default. So then I say something and then I click on submit, it's a loading, and you can see we are getting the record. Similar thing we need to do on our register. So register component is here, and let's have this, and we need to have this code also in our register. So I can copy this thing, register, and do all these things. Cool. And the final part is the finally, so that whatever is the condition, I say this dot is loading to false. So this is done, and we have proper login and register, but we also have this cart. So what if we do some kind of logic and say that cart will be only available if user is logged in? So let's implement this thing now. To know about login user, we have to use this auth, and we can get the current user. But before that, whenever I log in, I need a state which tell to the Angular that hey, user is really logged in. So it's going to be the state. But where we should add it? I want to add it on a auth service. So let's generate a service. So generate a service called auth service inside the auth directory. Now we have the auth service. We don't need the test file. So auth service is here. Now inside this auth service, we can see it's a root, that means available everywhere. So first thing is I'm going to create is authenticated is going to be a boolean thing, and initially it's false. That's good. But then we also need a login function, and then we need a register function. Okay, this is good, and we will call these functions from our components. So you can see on a login component we are using a lot of code which is not recommended. So let's inject auth service, and then here, yes, we are having this loading thing, but after that we say this dot auth service dot login. That's it. And copy all these code to login function, and we can import these like here, and we need to also pass the form. So I can say form. So now I can remove this dot form, and that's it. Form is login form type. Okay, now everything is good. But in this case, what we have to do, how do we change this? So what we can do, we can actually move the is loading part also here, because at one time only one page will be active, so that's not a big issue. In this way, we also need to move these two and pass this dot form. Okay, so let's do this. Cool. We are done with the login thing. Similar to the login, we also need to do the register. Move all the thing from the register. So copy, paste this dot auth service. We need to create it. Private auth service is auth service. Then say auth service dot register this dot form, passing the form detail. We don't need login information, and we can go to the auth service here, accept the form which is register form, and do all the things we want. And let's first remove this dot form and this dot password matched. Let's move this also here, password matched. Everything is fine, and create user also imported. No need for this dot form, and yeah, everything is good. But remember one thing, when user is successfully logged in, yes, we need to do this dot is authenticated to true. Yay. But if the user is not able to log in, I say it's going to be the false. And if the user is registering, then we need to redirect user to our home page. So for now, I just say this dot is authenticated is equal to true, and if there is any error, make it false. Now let's try this, and if I go on the login page, it says, hey, I need a loading, but we have moved the loading inside the auth service. So how we can use this auth service for our loading component? So login component. So here inside this, I'm going to create is loading function, which is going to return this dot auth service dot is loading. And instead of a property, I'm going to use this loading function here. So I just need to say, hey, use the loading function. Now this is going to work, and you see this is fine. Okay, so if this is working here, we need to do the same thing on the register component. So let's create is loading and return this dot auth service dot is loading, and we can remove any variable or property if we have created. Go to register component and do the same thing. Now everything is fine, and we have all the logic in our auth service, which is authenticated. If this is true, then we can go here on our app template, and then we can use ng container. And is this container I have used? Yes. So I can move this to only if user is not authenticated. If ngIf not of is authenticated. If user is authenticated, then I create a button which is saying that log out. Okay, and class of margin x4. Let's try. It says is authenticated does not exist. Now this is authenticated is not exist because this one is on the app component, and now our app component doesn't know about that is authenticated thing. So once again here also we can say constructor private auth service is auth service, and there are many ways to do these things. I'm just doing a simple one, and similar to that is authenticated function I'm going to create, which is going to return this dot auth service dot is authenticated. Okay, so now I can call this function which is going to check every time we are having. So okay, so I need to remove this not sign from here. Now user is not logged in. Yes, I can say correct email and the password secret123, click on submit, loading, and you can see now we are having this log out thing. How we can do the log out and how we can really redirect user to the cart page or home page, let's see. So once user is logged in, we need to redirect to the home page. How we can do that? So go to the login component, actually on the auth service, because here we are doing all the authentication part. So we need to import some route related things. So we need to import first the router. Let's call it router and then say router here. And when the authentication is successful, dot router dot navigate to the base URL. That's good. And let's try once again. Sarthak at bitfumes.com, password is secret123, click loading, and yes, we are redirected here. That's so cool. And now let's click on logout. Nothing happening. Let's work on that. So we need to create a logout function on our auth service where we just say this dot we need to actually use the authentication thing. So here manage the user. On the manage user we should have a logout thing, provide user information, email, verification email, user password, a lot of things are there, de-authenticated a user. So you just need to say auth, get the current user, and then we say that re-authenticated. It's a re-authenticate. I was looking for de-authenticate a user. It's going to delete the user. So password authentication is the thing we have to go. On the password authentication we should see sign in is there. Where is sign out? Yep, we have the sign out. It's just say sign out. That's good, like this. So we say hey sign out on passing the auth. So we can get the auth from here, and sign out we need to import. And once this sign out, then I say this dot router dot navigate to login page. Okay, and that's good. Now let's call this sign out function from our app component, but app component doesn't know about sign out because we need to implement the sign out same thing on our app component.ts file. So at click, let's say sign out or log out, let's say log out, and go to the app component.ts and we say logout is this dot auth service dot log out. Okay, that's good. And now let's see, it should redirect user to the login page, bitfumes.com secret123, click on submit. We are logged in. Click on logout. It's not working. I think I did the same mistake whenever I'm doing. So log out. So I need to once again log in because we are not persisting the state, and that's not a big deal actually. Yes, and click on logout. Yeah, it's there, but at the same time, once the logout is done, then we need to make is authenticated user to false. So this dot is authenticated to false. And the final part, sarthak@bitfumes.com, secret 123, click login, and now click on logout. Yes, everything is working absolutely fine. And the very final thing of this big amazing Angular course is what we need is once the user is really logged in, then I don't want anyone to visit the login page. And if the user is logged out, I don't want anyone to visit the my cart page. Let's implement the guard now. So let's prevent the user for visiting this my cart page if not logged in. For that, we can start with ngGenerate, and this time I'm going to generate a guard, and I'm going to call this can activate or auth guard. So let's see what we are going to get. It says, which interface would you like to implement? Can activate, can child, can deactivate. I want can activate. That's it. That's done actually. Simple thing. App, inside the auth we have auth guard, which is once again similar to the service, and now it's provided in the root level, but since it is related to auth, I have moved it into the auth directory. Now this function is useful. This function is going to return boolean, and that depends upon what type of thing we want to do. So you can see here this function is having a lot of things. It's accepting these route and state, then we have observable, promise, every other thing, and finally it's returning this true. True means always all things are valid, and we can go to the Angular, we can go to the routing and routing common task, and then we can search for can activate. Yeah, we are here. So just like we have created this, we can see we have a next and the state, we have route and the state, not an issue. Then how we can add this can activate guard to our routing? So we just need the third element and name our guard. So go to the route module, and here on the login or on the card actually, I say can activate with auth guard, like here. Okay, so auth guard is here. Since it is at root level, no problem with that. Now reload. This is not working because we know can activate is returning true. What if this return false? You can see it's now on the base URL. If I trying to click on the my cart, it's not working because this thing is totally depend upon the true or false. But what exactly we need to pass here? So let's remove all these things because we only need one thing, which is a constructor. Inside the constructor, let's have auth service, and this auth service is going to tell me if the user is logged in or not. That's a simple thing. And now depending upon that, user will be able to see the my cart. So click on login and say like this, bitfumes.com secret 123, click on submit, and yes, I'm now logged in. And what if I try to click on my cart? Yes, I can see that. Wow, that's so amazing. Now the final part, what it is, deploy. So go to the Firebase and go to the build, and we have a hosting. Let's click on this getting started. We already have this npm Firebase tool. If you don't have, you can check here and on the firebase tool. So we have this firebase, we don't have the firebase tool anyways, so we can install it. So just do that. Okay, so it's installing, and after that what we need to do the firebase login from the CLI. Okay, so once this is done, we will be able to run the command. So now let's do the firebase login, and it says allow firebase to collect information from CLI. So I say yes, and now it's doing this. So I allow, and now it's done. So yeah, it says firebase login is successful. Close this window, and then it says firebase init. So I do the firebase init, and you can see now one firebase debug log is created. And now we have question. It says which firebase feature you want. I want the hosting and configure file for firebase hosting and setup action if we need, but we just need the firebase hosting. So we are using firebase hosting. So I press spacebar to select it. I have used the authentication. So is there any authentication related thing? I have not used store. I'm going to use the this one, firebase cloud function directly and its file. So I think that's it. We don't have to do anything, just press enter, and now it says select an option, project setup, use an existing project, which we directly have right here. Oh, this is asking for the existing project on our yeah, so this is Angular 14 course. Do you want to use your public? Yes, so use the public directory. Later on, if we need, we can change it. Configure it single page application. Yes, it is a single page application. Set up automatic build and deploy with GitHub, not with the GitHub, or maybe I can do yes and no. I'm not sure, so just say no, and it's done. So now you can see Firebase JSON is created, and it says that public file, public directory is there, which is taking care of everything. So here we are. Now what we need next, we need to say Firebase deploy. Okay, so let's do the Firebase deploy, and then it's doing something. Deploying Angular 14 course. So we are getting this URL. So let's visit this, and it says Firebase. What is Firebase? How it's getting Firebase? Because in our public we have this index.html. We don't need this public, so I'm going to delete this public directory, and I will change Firebase JSON from public to dist directory. But where is the dist directory? When we need to create it. So first let's open the package.json, and we need to build our application. So I say npm run build and -- prod for the production. So I'm using it, and now once this is done, once the production is done, then we will have a dist directory here. That dist directory we will use, and you can see now this directory is here. Inside that we have a app, my app directory, and then we have index. So we can say dist / my - app, and that's good. Once again do the Firebase deploy, and let's see. Uploading new files, and everything is done. We get this same once again. Reload this page, and whoa, we have this here, and everything should work. So finally, let's say this 1 2 3 submit, and yeah, now it's working absolutely fine. Everything is great, and log out, can't use the my cart. Wow. So this is final look for our course, and really happy with the output. And this is how you can create a full-fledged amazing Angular application with all the features inbuilt. So there are a lot of amazing thing still available in Angular. I have not touched that. I have not gone to the depth of each concept, but this documentation is so easy to understand, very nice, structured. You have to read it, and then I'm sure you will going to understand Angular very easily. I have learned everything from the documentation, so that's the only goal. Cool. If you like this episode, please give it a thumbs up and share with your friends who want to learn Angular, because this course is really amazing. And share your thoughts inside the comment section. If you have any request for any other programming language or any other thing related to programming, web development, just comment below your request. I will going to create the videos on that. So see you on the next video. Till then, goodbye.